And I would now like to welcome to the show, Matt from Fudd Busters. You can find Fudd Busters on YouTube. How's it going, man?
Hey, Nick. It's good to finally see you. And everyone in the audience, I'd just like to say hello and fuck the British and fuck cops.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Stupid British.
Yeah.
God,
They're
so
the same.
entitled.
Cops are just Brits. Did you know that?
Yeah, we should give them red coats. No longer the boys in blue.
No, we're not spending money on the coats. We're just going to paint them.
Oh, no. That could be taken badly.
No, what are you suggesting? I didn't suggest anything.
Sherwin-Williams. That's all I'm
You're
saying.
the guy with all the weapons behind you.
I have a bunch of Sherwin-Williams stock, and it just seemed improper to suggest that we would paint their coats. Well, how's it going, man? Nice to meet you.
Dude, who the fuck is Amber Heard?
Some fucking whore. I don't know.
True.
Oh, you do know her then.
Well, maybe in the biblical sense.
Yeah, no, it's I of course covered that trial, and it's in its like death throes now. They had just some, I don't know if you followed it or like the post-trial stuff, but the post-trial motions on it have been, it's like the saddest attempt to try and get
it's almost as if, expensive lawyers charged by the hour.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we could totally get you in on this juror thing. That'll be fine. We'll get a new trial then you pay us another $6 million to lose. It was just embarrassment. But why don't we start by letting getting a little bit of a bio from you, because I tangentially know you, but I'm not like super familiar with your work. In fact, I had a complete disconnect on who you were from when people were like, get Fudd Busters on, because I thought you were just like a gun YouTuber. Who I love gun YouTubers, they're great, but it turns out that you're more than a mere gun YouTuber. And why don't you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, I'm a janitor, and I really like anime.
So you are in my audience.
No,
That's amazing.
No, I was a mechanic before I did law, but no, I fell backwards into doing firearm law. It's my main practice area. And we do basic breakdowns because I would get so frustrated that everybody in the gun law space, all five of us, would speak Martian to each other, right? Like such bullshit, trying to keep everything at such an absurdly incomprehensible level. So I was like, somebody needs to just like speak straight English and say what is actually going on. So that's why I started Fudd Busters, and it's been super fulfilling. I've super enjoyed it. And yeah, I've been involved in many lawsuits in the firearms sphere. I've filed like several dozen Supreme Court amicus briefs in Second Amendment related cases. And I'm also a humble wind chime merchant. If you guys would like to check out my wind chime store, it's maf-arms.com. We sell very nice wind chimes.
Very good. Very good. What do these, I know like wind chimes that based on the size of the chime, they play different notes. So do you have different size wind chimes?
Yes.
Then? Okay, that's maf-arms.com.
You should read our about page. It's one of my greatest pieces of literature.
See, is it maf-arms?
Dash, yeah, like the one next to the zero on a regular non-British keyboard. Right.
Oh God, not my farms. Oh God, that could have gone really bad. All it says is mommy's milk. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay.
I'm a humble woman.
All right, here we go. I'll pull it up here. We'll share it for the chat. Okay, we've got the MAF Corporation. We are the manufacturer d'armes, a carillon de Floride. Okay, what is carillon? My French is rusty.
Is wind chime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's French. You probably haven't heard of us. Someone once said we stand on the shoulders of giants or something. I'm not sure who said that because they are wrong. We at MAF think the world is large and that people are small, not the other way around. This is of no significance to our mission. Creativity, let that sink in. Creativity, think about it. We live in a society wrought with horrors, war, taxation, starvation, underpopulation, fracking, and the persistent independence of the nation of Greenland. Some people think, well, that's just how it is. At MAF, we think differently. Let's live in the world we want to live in. Let's create that world that we want because it meets our desires. We can paint a picture with what we want. Let's show the world we have interests and we want things. Creativity, we are surrounded by natural and unnatural resources. We can use these in at least 3 different ways, possibly more. So why aren't we digging in? Well, not anymore. We're here to take things, parts, components, pieces, whatever, and change the way you think about objects. Let your imagination run wild. Our products can be used to make a multitude of things through your artistic expression. Wind chimes are the sound of nature mixed with a stunning Lockean understanding of property rights. That's deep. Be a part of it. That's why we choose to take items some people think are used for evil and help you to use them for art. It's cool. So if we go to the shop here.
Yeah, it's all regular stuff.
Yeah. So there's a tack chime, for example. The tack chime here is beautiful, lovely, and artistic.
Thank you.
It produces, I'm sure, very.
It's a 9 hertz tone.
So you've got the tack chime. We've got like an M11 wind chime kit. Now you get the pieces, right? Mm-hmm. Oh wait, no. How did it go to the resonator with thread? Did I click on the wrong thing?
I don't know. I'm a weird drunk idiot. I don't know how to website good.
Oh yeah, I think. Yeah, that's going to the wrong. You may want to fix that one.
Yeah, whatever.
But
yeah, we got the Smith & Walters 99 chimes. I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah, here we go. So you guys can check. You can check out these lovely wind chimes, but this is just one way to assemble your wind chime, right? Like you can assemble it in different ways too. You can do different things. It's your artistic expression.
I mean, I'm not interested in regulating people's expression.
Right. So there you guys go.
And I also don't want to see people's arts. It's really boring. You like do what you want. I'm not really interested, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But so that's just a website for people to get some art supplies and some crafts. It's like Hobby Lobby, but
it's just regular stuff. It's just normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not interested in, like weird stuff. I like just normal things like that.
Very cool. So, okay. So you run MAF, and you are also a firearms attorney, unrelated to the website. Mm-hmm. And you recently, this is what people were like, you idiot, you need to talk to this guy because he's the guy that filed the motion. You have filed a motion to overturn one of the most egregious Supreme Court cases that tramples constitutional rights.
Well, so if you're about to say Miller, I don't know if I agree there, right? Because Miller didn't really have an articulated standard. Miller was kind of just like, Miller's a bullshit case, and it was calculated specifically by the government. Like the fucking defendant was dead by the time it was at Supreme Court. What happened to Article 3, right? But they said, oh, well, short-barreled shotguns can be regulated because they don't have military utility. Right. I'm actually okay with, using the Miller, like whatever little tiny standard that was in Miller. But no,
they don't use it.
No, they don't use it. We had Miller and then we had silence until Heller. And during that whole period of time, the courts were so shit scared because of the switch in time that saved 9, right? All these New Deal era programs where they're like, you can't hold anything unconstitutional, else we're going to have 49 people in the Supreme Court, right? So it's this fascinating confluence, right? After Miller, you had almost no gun restrictions on the state level until the 1960s, right? So it was just this one bizarre thing. Also, public support for a handgun ban, like a total handgun ban, was 60%. It was just a bizarre time.
Let's real quick talk about that. The switch in time save 9 is it's a play on an old expression, but the idea here is that if you don't know, FDR was pushing the New Deal, trying to get the country in his mind, trying to get the country back on its feet. He's really trying to implement a bunch of progressive law. The problem he was facing was a Supreme Court that was like unconstitutional. Every single part of his program was getting shut down left and right. And he went to the court and he told them, if you don't start ruling my way, remember this is FDR who at the time, and maybe still, was the most popular president ever.
And was famous in his cabinet for wandering around the halls. I mean, to the extent he could, right? Muttering to himself, "Damn the Constitution." He was famous for that.
So he was so wildly popular with the people that he basically said, I can appoint as many Supreme Court justices as necessary to make you 9 irrelevant. If he had to put 10 new justices on the court, he would. If he had to put 20 new justices on the court, he was going to do it. Like, we talk now about court packing as this like sort of possibility that's looming in the woods. Like, oh, Joe Biden might appoint 2 more liberal justices to outdo the conservative side or something. No, FDR is like, I'm going to do this if you don't do it. And he's like, and I have the backing of the people. This is probably in his 3rd term, I think, that this is going on. And so, he got elected for a 4th even after this. So the saving 9 is saving 9 Supreme Court justices is what we're talking about. And
the switch in time was that, like, I think 2 justices that were like, you know what, I'm suddenly going to decide that the Commerce Clause doesn't mean what it says and actually means literally anything.
Don't you dare cite Wickard versus Filburn on this show, you bastard.
Am I allowed?
No, I say Miller's one of the most Wickard versus Filburn.
Oh, Wickard, it's horrifying. So and of course, like anyone who's been through law school, like most of you guys will have your con law professor say, I'm going to show you the most disgusting Supreme Court decision ever, and it's called Lochner, right? and Lochner was about being able to contract your own body to work however many hours you want, and they said, yeah, that's your right. New York, you can't force bakers to only work for X amount of hours. That's stupid. When I went, so my first job out of law school was at the Kelo Institute, and they have this like very in-depth interview that they go through people depending on their answers. The first question was, Matt, what's your opinion on Lochner? And I just go, Lochner was correctly decided. And they said, oh, okay, you're hired.
Now everyone knows how to get hired at Kelo Institute. Perfect.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so Wickard versus Filburn, real quick. If you haven't heard me bitch about this case before, Wickard versus Filburn is a case about a guy who wanted to grow his own wheat. The government wanted to increase the price of wheat, so they put a limit on how much wheat you could grow to sell, which would artificially suppress supply, which would thereby increase price under, an economic theory. And so that was the idea. This guy, he grew an extra like 1,000 bushels or something of wheat for his own home personal use. It was never going to leave his property, according to him. It was never going to be sold to someone in the state, was never going to be sold across state lines or anything. And the Congress has the power to regulate commerce, interstate commerce specifically, so they can regulate commerce that travels across state lines. So he says, no, I'm saving this wheat for my own use to feed my own cattle, etc. Wickard versus Filburn was the decision that said that by creating something for himself, he is actively not participating in interstate commerce, and therefore he is participating in interstate commerce. And
by suppressing the demand from his household.
Yes, because he should have had to buy that wheat, damn it. And so that was where the Supreme Court said that Congress had the power to force citizens to not even grow their own crops. Like that's how insane this was. And so they came out and they took his 1,000 bushels of wheat and they burned it. I mean, they just destroyed it. And so this guy,
because we're the government, we're here to help.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the most offensive decisions ever. And now the only semi-decent thing John Roberts has maybe done in his entire career is refuse to expand the Dormant Commerce Clause of Wickard to Obamacare.
Right.
But that was like the only right thing he did in that decision. But everybody thought that was going to be preserved because of the Dormant Commerce Clause. It's what Congress passed it under. And when Roberts came out and said, no, I was in law school at the time, con law professor was stunned. Everybody's stunned. And he's like, no, use tax and spend.
I'm invoking the tax power.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
Yeah, he all said it's not a tax.
Yeah.
Their lawyer argued it's not a tax.
Yeah.
Some other appointed attorney's like, well, if it is a tax, this is what it looks like. And Robert's like, no, that one. That's the one we want.
I like that one.
God.
So then another horrifying murder case that a lot of people don't think about, Caroline Products, footnote, I think it's footnote 4, is the source of tiered scrutiny. And everybody thinks like, oh yeah, no, because you got the rational breadsticks and you got the strict stromboli, and the stuff that you like goes in strict stromboli. And it's like, hold the fuck on. Before Caroline Products, the question was, is the government violating your rights? Flowchart. Yes. No, they can't. No.
That's it. And it comes from a footnote.
A footnote. Yeah, because like later on, they're like, how do we uphold this regulation? How do we uphold this commercial speech regulation? Intermediate stromboli.
Yeah, the commercial speech one drives me nuts. Like, well, commercial speech is not contemplated in the same way that political speech is. Like, where the fuck is the evidence of that?
Yeah.
Like the founders didn't say this type of speech and this type of speech are inherently different, and one needs to be treated one way and the other. And those time, place, and manner restrictions, those are fairly reasonable.
That's whatever.
That's the least restrictive means. Like, that's not least restrictive. The least restrictive is don't. How about that one?
But the least restrictive is do something else because it's not working anyway.
Okay. So you don't necessarily agree. Miller, part of the reason that makes Miller egregious, in my opinion, is it's a couple things you articulated, though. One, it was decided against a dead guy whose lawyer didn't even show up. So the government lawyer comes up to argue the government's case in US v. Miller. The other guy's like, no, I'm not coming. And the Supreme Court's like, this is fine. We don't need to appoint another attorney. We don't need to force this guy to show up and make the argument. We'll just let the government do it. That'll be okay. So that's one problem. The other problem is sort of this, it creates this nebulous idea that is then never followed, because the standard that's articulated in Miller is what you said. If it's in common military use, then it's protected, which does not jive with the 1986 machine gun ban under the National Firearms Act, because machine guns, last I checked, are definitely common military use weapons, and therefore they should be relatively unregulated. Actually, in my opinion, all guns should be unregulated completely.
Based. But that's true.
Yeah.
Anything. So, and here's what, and people always say, I don't know if you have any, I'm sure you've got a bunch of like leftoid soy suckers in your chat. I'm talking to you, chat. So people will always ask me, oh, what's the limit? What's the limit? And I actually have a response for that. Common law nuisance. If the use of a weapon itself, like if just the use of a weapon poses a common law nuisance, it's probably regulable. So I'm talking about like, and this would have to be jurisdiction specific. So I think that, perhaps New York City could have a argument to regulate possession of hand grenades because everyone's so close to each other.
Sure.
But probably Bessemer, Alabama would not be able to do that. Maybe Bessemer, Alabama would be able to regulate possession of a tactical nuke, but maybe, the top of Alaska couldn't, right? But that's a rational and built-in limitation, right? When the use of a thing is automatically a nuisance.
Yeah,
but there's no shoulder-fired weapon that's automatically a nuisance.
Period. Right. So a common law nuisance. What the idea behind that is that something interferes with the quiet enjoyment of someone else's property. And the interesting thing about common law nuisance is it does have a sort of timetable built into it. If you're the pre-existing owner, if you have quote unquote seniority of ownership of your property, it's much harder for you to nuisance someone else because they're approaching the nuisance. Now, if the nuisance is known and open, so like if you have hypothetically a shooting range on your property and they want to open and of course you do. And they want to open a sleep center next door, and you're sitting there outside firing while the real estate agent is showing them around the property for their sleep center. And they come in, they buy the property, and then they go to the court to complain that, well, you're shooting, the sound from that shooting is causing them to be unable to run their business. Well, I'm sorry, you approached the nuisance. That's your fault. Right. But if they build a sleep center and then you build a shooting range, then you have a different question. But this is an interesting sort of standard because
there are different levels of nuisance though. So the levels I'm talking about, and I saw somebody in the chat saying, "Oh, the Davy Crockett is a nuisance under his definition." Not necessarily. So when you look at nuisance in terms of elements, which the focus was on noxious emissions and vibrations, right? That's what I'm talking about. Like the question of whether a well could be considered a nuisance was on, well, is poison gas coming out of it? Right? Like that's
right. Yeah.
How far is the gas going?
Yeah. And nuisance and trespass butt heads, especially in the age of particulates now,
right?
Where we're talking about like, is a poison gas, is it a gas, or is it a bundle of particulate matter?
Right.
Like, for example, like a fertilizer spray. Fertilizer spray probably falls more in line with trespass because you're putting particulates down, whereas gas, I mean, is sort of particulate, but also not.
It carries over a much longer distance,
right? And you're like your nose picks up something, and something gets into your lungs, but it's not as clear. But yeah, see, that's an interesting standard because yes, if you're throwing grenades, then the next door neighbor, their house might literally rumble from some of the explosions or the blast, as if you set up like a giant rave in your yard with awesome subwoofers or whatever.
Yeah. And bear in mind, I don't think that means that they could ban possession. It means that they could regulate use.
Right. And
that's those common law regulations are consistent with the Constitution because that was the type of stuff that was prevalent and common around the time of the founding.
Right. It goes back to that sort of libertarian principle of, are you messing with my shit? Because if you're not messing with my shit, then I'm not really allowed to care that much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what people don't quite understand rights, and I think the best way to explain a right is, your right to swing your fist ends at the next man's nose. Yeah. Just replace.
And for me, that's a long distance.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. I mean, the people have to stay very far away from you, but it goes the same way with firearms. Like you have the right to possess, in my opinion, the natural fundamental right to possess any weapon that could be conceivably useful in your self-defense. But I don't know if you have a right to use one that automatically would destroy a peaceful neighbor, right? So, but let me make that clear. I literally do not think that any shoulder-fired weapon, including an RPG-7, could fall in that category. Like, I am arguing hardcore for the private ownership of a fully armored AMX-13 tank, and I want it delivered by drone, from like whatever country France sold those to last. So, yeah,
drops the tank down like it's Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, I'll go. So it's like 15 shit coins. Yeah, boop. that's the world I want to live in.
Well, because it's an interesting. This poses a potential solution to the interesting question of, well, do you think people should be able to own a nuke? Well, first of all, people. Let's get around the feasibility issue of the overwhelming majority of people having any ability to procure a nuclear weapon.
Right.
The materials and the you're talking only like the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezos of the world could actually possibly develop these things on their own. But yes, they should be able to own nuclear weapons. Well, but then they could find, one, they're probably not going to, but two,
it wouldn't be very profitable.
Right. It'd be a horrific mistake for them.
There would be legal consequences that are hard to explain.
Yeah. But the idea is that sure, you could have them, but your nuisance issue also brings up that sort of problem. If you're refining uranium on your property, like your neighbor may have a problem with that because you've got waste, you've got, real potential problems with any sort of malfunction with the plant itself. So there are issues that would need to be, I feel like this is a self-regulating problem, and arguing on the extremes. It's like arguing abortion, being like, well, what if the president of the United States impregnated my daughter? Would I
Who's
then
12 and she was going to die?
Yeah. Dying from cancer.
It's like, why does it always go to that extreme when people, because that's the thing. Whenever you have a conversation and you rule out the rational, the rational edges, they're like, well, I got you.
Wait, would Joe Biden impregnate a 12-year-old cancer patient? Because there's no hair to sniff.
Well, it depends on what stage we're at in the treatment.
Because the chemo would make
well,
them
wait,
bald.
but maybe they're at the the last stage of treatment and start to come back. Maybe they got hair like mine.
He goes out, he's like, fuzz.
Well, that's fresh. Oh, that's brand new stuff.
If he didn't do it, Hunter would, though.
Is
that illegal to say yet?
For legal reasons, this is a joke.
But for comedy reasons, it's dead serious.
Yeah, for comedy reasons, I'm 100% not joking.
But yeah, okay, so that's an interesting problem, or an interesting sort of workaround of the problem. It's almost like you practice in this area and have thought about
it. I think about it a lot.
Okay, so tell me about this New York State Rifle and Pistol Association decision,
Bruin.
Because that was huge news to come out. I mean, personally, I wanted them to roll back US v. Miller then, and let's just go back to the no regulation zone. Let's get there and have, every potential gun regulation is weighed in. It should be strict scrutiny, in my opinion. I just don't know how they get around that. It's got to be strict scrutiny. And now I think it is, right? After this decision, effectively,
if applied faithfully,
right?
And remember, so we're talking about, and they said there's two things in Bruin, because they were dealing with a state statute, so they're like, okay, well, so first we look at the stuff around the founding era, and then we look at the stuff around the antebellum era.
Sure.
After the War of Northern Aggression. So it was,
God damn it.
And these are two, these are what? No, these are two different things, right? Because when it's a state regulation, the Second Amendment wasn't incorporated against the state until after the War of Northern Aggression. However, when you're dealing with federal law, I don't think it's the same question.
Yeah, I don't think you get to apply 14th Amendment contemporary ideas with federal law. You have to apply Second Amendment, 1791.
Right.
You got to go
there. The problem is the court didn't say that. And so I'm worried that in federal cases, they might be bringing up all of this, stuff, following this tragedy. Right. Because there was a lot of shitty laws that were around in that area. Not enough to hold the candle. But
what you had was, you had, that's when gun regulation really started to see something happen, because some of the southern states were regulating guns away from black people. In fact, I would wager some of the northern states were too.
No, they definitely didn't like people who looked like me having cool stuff.
Yeah. The South gets picked on for being super racist because of the slavery. The North was just as racist. They just didn't have cotton fields.
Yeah, no, they were like, we have a machine and we give them 30 cents to. Oh, and by the way, the first minimum wage law was passed in New York to protect white labor from the more efficient black labor that was coming up from the South. And they're like, wait a minute. They're taking our contracts. It's like, oh, but the North, the Yankees are so wonderful and they protect us all.
Yeah. So you have these gun regulations coming in because, frankly, there were people in a majority community who did not like minority communities having some level of power. And and that's the problem with democracies in general. Democracy is tyranny of the majority. Right. And so they were passing these laws, but the 14th Amendment didn't exist yet. So the Bill of Rights is not being applied to state action until 1867 or something like that. And only then does it start. Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing,
the doctrine of incorporation.
Yeah.
It's such dog trash.
But US v. Miller is the first time that this is even, or no, it's not even a 14th Amendment issue then, was it?
No, it wasn't, because it was the federal law.
So it's not.
So they didn't have to incorporate until 2010.
Until 2010. So the Second Amendment is not applied to the state actions until 2010. I mean, it was almost
second to last right incorporated.
What's the last one?
Quartering.
Oh, quartering, the Third Amendment. Okay. Yeah. And because you just never get a quartering case.
There was one.
Yeah. Well, was it silly though?
Because sometimes silly.
I remember reading one of the quartering cases. I don't remember what year it was, but it was like two soldiers who didn't want to do parade marches, and the parade march was on like a private piece of property. And so they're like, no, this is quartering soldiers if you make us do parade action on this private property. And so therefore it's a violation of the Third Amendment. And the Supreme Court like laughed at them in that case, but I don't remember when that was.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't remember either. I'm a gun lawyer. I do gun law and Florida consumer protection.
Do you think that quartered soldiers don't have guns, Mr. Matt?
I think that if you're wearing a uniform, I don't want you on my property. It's just, I mean, that's the end of my thoughts on that matter.
Okay, well, I guess that's fair. All right, so New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, pistol and rifle. I don't know which way it goes.
Rifle and pistol.
Okay, so Rifle Pistol Association. This undoes a very old New York law about
the Sullivan Act,
right? Which is, I mean, it's like 100 years old, right?
1911 is when it was passed, and it was expressly for the purpose of disarming Italians.
Oh, thank God, someone had to do
it. I mean, they talk about common sense gun control.
Yeah. These Guidos running around here picking up their little lasagna shooters or whatever.
Yeah, and shooting all the jobs.
I take it back that what the Supreme Court did is a tragedy. Let's just apply the act back to its original purpose and we'll be fine. So this act is designed to disarm Italians in 1911. Why are they disarming Italians in 1911? I mean, besides the obvious, is there a specific thing this is in response to?
No, it's not like the NFA where you've got, the St. Valentine's Day uproar. It was just like general, like they were done hating the Irish. And so there was a new topic of ire. And around that same time, also Italians, the Italian firearms industry was really getting up along with the Spanish firearms industry. And they were bringing over their little spaghetti slingers and they were doing stuff, but like, the law is facially neutral, but for the first several decades of its enforcement, there is only record of it being enforced against Italians.
Sure. Yep. As most laws should be.
Yeah, they're different from us.
So they have this old law that targeted Italians, but like you said, it's facially neutral. So when you read the law, if you don't know the context of its as applied status, you're going to say, okay, this applies to everybody. And then eventually it does. I mean, it's in New York, it applies to literally everybody because it became almost impossible to get a gun.
Right.
And carry it around.
Right.
And
especially carry it around.
Right. And the idea was that it basically, and this is the problem with it. If I get this wrong, please correct me. But effectively it was the local law enforcement chief, be it a sheriff or a police chief in a city, that you would have to typically petition to get a carry permit, had discretion to deny the carry permit for some sort of reason. His own
good and substantial reason
or whatever.
Previously, and like, so the good moral character thing actually comes from, it started out, I believe, in the Black Codes, and it was just a way to, again, facially neutrally say, if you look a certain way, you're not of good moral character, and so you're not going to be able to do this.
Yeah, if you're giving a government agent, especially an elected government agent, in the case of a sheriff, for example, the ability to deny based on his own training, experience, and intuition, or general bad feel about someone, then you've licensed the populace to elect someone who will deny guns to the group that they don't like. I mean, that's effectively what you've done.
Yes.
And so that's a problem.
And such was literally the case in New York up until this year. Like, and the law, I don't want to use the word evolved. The law mutated several times over the course of the intervening decades. But it maintained the same function, which was to give your local law enforcement wild discretion. And the purpose of this wild discretion is the idea was local law enforcement knows who's a bad guy. And so they're going to say no to the bad guy. And that way, when they catch him with a pistol, it's a complete offense. You don't have to prove intent. You don't have to prove anything. It's just a easy, complete offense to lock him up. That's the whole point.
the way you argue this is, well, these cops know their communities,
right?
They know that guy who gets arrested every week, but he never seems to catch the charge. You know, he's a bad guy. They've seen him slapping around neighborhood kids or whatever. But they just can't pin a crime because people are scared, so they won't talk about him. And so when that guy wants to grab a gun, we know he's going to shoot somebody. And so we want to just stop that. Like, that's the argument you make, is that these cops know their communities.
Yeah, they're community caretakers.
Right. And we've seen like that. It is kind of a historical idea about cops, and it's gone. It's gone today. I mean, people do.
Well, because and like, this is another thing. I brought this up on another stream I was on the other night. When do people think that uniformed patrolling police officers became a thing in this country? Right? People, and I asked the audience the other night, they were like, oh, like 1800 or this, whatever. No.
1950s or something crazy.
It was like the first ones were, I don't know if it was New York or Louisiana, but it was like in the 20s. And then it did not come into play in the rest of the country till, like you said, the 50s.
Yeah.
Because you just deputized people, and it was just a normal guy who also had a badge, and the gun was not abnormal.
Well, I've talked about this before. Like the whole notion of law enforcement that we have now is so different than the time of the founding, because at the founding we didn't have phones. So there was no way that you could inform a dispatch of a crime in progress, and that they could then reach out to someone who is immediately in an area and have them go try and be a preventative measure. The police served warrants. They collected people when warrants were issued for their arrest, and they would occasionally witness a crime and attempt to stop it. But that wasn't their job. They were investigative after the fact, and they were apprehensive. They were in the business of apprehending. Yeah. And
they're now apprehensive.
Right. But now we've developed this system, and we haven't rethought policing intentionally. We've just kind of reacted to we could actually put these guys around. But we see over and over with things like Parkland, with Uvalde, with on a different sort of scale with Castle Rock v. Gonzalez, where what happens when these guys don't do that? When we want them to, and they don't do it, then you're left holding a dead kid. And it's crazy, because people think that this is how policing has been done, but it's not. We're learning this as we go, and we're learning it poorly.
Right, for sure. Well, we are learning it. It seems that everyone else is like, how come cop sit down?
Well, when you don't let him sit down, then he takes a knee and you get even more mad.
It's like, and then, oh my god! And then I get so furious, because then you get on the other side, you get the blue liners. It's like, that's an aggressive form of brain cancer that needs to be eradicated. And they're like, oh, but no, they gotta get home. It's like, what the fuck is that pension for then?
Yeah, well, interesting thing is, I mean, technically, and believe me, like, I want everyone to go home at
ideally,
night. The day without murder would be cool.
Right.
We should try it sometime. But but like, they never had to leave home.
Right.
Like that's the weird thing. It's like no one held a gun to their head and said, you need to be a cop in a dangerous area. Like, go do that immediately. I appreciate people who want to contribute to their community in that way, but it is a voluntary position. The pay is kind of shit. And, maybe there's a different vocation, but, and you should go home, but I also don't have the fondest look of killing the citizenry.
No,
I have a general issue with it.
There's a reason, and I don't want to say it overtly because people aren't ready, even right wingers are not ready, but there's a reason we do hazard pay and pensions. And it's for the people who get through, which is still most of them, but there's a reason. And the reason isn't you need to be the safest boy, right? Like you said, no, they get paid extra to go to the bad community. Like,
right. Yeah, and they should. And like if
they should, that's fair. That's fair.
If you're putting the problem is some of them get paid a whole lot extra to go to the really nice communities.
Right. Yeah. This community pays us $300,000 to have one cruiser rove around. Would you like to sit in the cruiser?
Yes.
And be mean to children?
There's a great 70s movie about that. It's a small town cop, and all he does, like the whole plot of the movie is all this guy wants to do is drive around his squad car, pick up and bang chicks randomly. And then he gets wrapped up because he like gets involved in this like robbery gone wrong where people get shot up. It's like, oh God, I can't remember what this is called. We watched it on Twitch one time. It was fucking great. It's like Dirty Mike or something is the name of this movie.
And also I gotta respect a cop like that because, and I'm not gonna say that I'm this like wonderful, amazing, person. I'm not a cop on purpose, and it's because if I was, I'm too much of a rational person. I would be on the take hardcore. Don't sit there and tell me you wouldn't. Only a stupid person would.
I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't have as many scruples as necessary.
Well, I have a bar card too, and I choose to completely uphold and all of that stuff. But if I wasn't, and if I was a cop,
yeah, no, I mean that's the tempting thing, right? Well, like,
right.
We'll take care of you. All you got to do is bring the bread. Dirty O'Neill was the movie. The chat came save the day. It's a hilarious movie, Dirty O'Neill.
We got to watch that in my Discord, I think.
Strong recommend on it.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's kind of get back. We're going to tangent off a million times here, and I'm good with that. But I do want to get back to kind of the ruling. So the ruling effectively makes New York into a shall issue carry permit state, right? Like, is that kind of the idea?
It's complicated.
Okay. Complicate me.
Because it's still, so the decision is reversed. We've gone back. Have we gotten an entry from the Second Circuit yet?
Oh, I guess. Yeah. Cause
right.
So right now they get remanded down to the lower court with the instructions to issue a new ruling. Shit. Yeah. With a new ruling. But so, okay. But the idea would be something is going to come of this, which it could actually,
they've already been scrambling.
Right. They're scrambling. California's scrambling hard. I heard they just passed a whole shitload of laws.
Yeah. And then my favorite part is that Maryland just goes, you got us. You got us. We'll stop. Like that was Maryland. But then aside from that, dude, like I call this the retaliation era because these states are like freaked out. New York called a special session like they never done that, and they come and they just jam together this law that had like typos and shit, and like no one even quite understands what it does, and they're just creating a whole new permit scheme which just gets rid of the the good and substantial reason requirement, but it also has like 410 bazillion hours required and 1.8 gazillion dollars. So they're fighting desperately to, and isn't it weird when a governor says openly on the Titter Bird app, we are going to fight back against the U.S. Supreme Court? Like,
you know what? As much as I am annoyed at this being the grounds that they're doing it, like they're going to fight back against the Supreme Court in order to suppress rights. That's what bothers me.
Yeah. And it's like,
in principle, I'm actually okay with a governor saying "fuck you" to the Supreme Court.
Well, because the last time it happened was Kelo, right, with the eminent domain,
right?
And that was all of them are like, no, we're not going to steal from people, period. And all these states, passed eminent domain reform, but now they're like, wait, we have to respect your rights. I'll show you, Supreme Court. And meanwhile, I'm sitting over here, and a lot of us in the Southeast are sitting here going, hey, New York and California, you should secede. That would be really funny. Haha.
That would be funny. We'll see how that goes. Now, Kelo, you're going to keep dropping these cases, and I'm going to keep explaining them very briefly.
I don't usually do that, but I've been drinking kvass. My buddy made some of this Russian stuff, and
what is Russian stuff? That sounds
kvass,
terrible for you.
So it's really, yeah. So like this wasn't considered alcohol in Russia until like 2 years ago, because it's like they use it as a soft drink, but you set bread on fire and then you put it in a pot with like a bunch of bullshit and sugar and like yeast and let it sit, and you're only supposed to let it sit for like a couple days, but he let it sit for a while, so it's a little spicy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a true Slav drink for us AK users.
Terrifying. I like it. Okay, so Kelo versus New London is this case. I've talked about it before. It's another one of these like horrifying decisions of the court where there's a homeowner and then there's a person who wants to make a strip mall effectively. And so
it was a Pfizer camp.
Oh, that's yeah. So
Pfizer's going to build a camp.
Eminent domain brought to you by Pfizer. So yeah, Pfizer's going to build a campus, and there's just these pesky homeowners who are like, actually, we live here and we don't really want to move.
Yeah.
So they had secured a bunch of the other properties for purchase, but there's some holdouts. So they go and petition the city and they say, we want you to exercise eminent domain and to confiscate the property from the citizens and give it to us. And they do. And then the Supreme Court says, yeah, that's okay. You can actually take private property from a private owner through the government and give it to a different private owner if it's for the quote unquote public good. In this case, Pfizer argued that it would bring a whole bunch of jobs and stuff to the community. It would generate a bunch of revenue. So they win. The property gets taken from the people and Pfizer gets it, and they never build the thing. They never built it. It was all for nothing in the end. It was all just for stripping rights away. And it's one of the most horrifying decisions, because one of the hallmarks of the Constitution is that even though it doesn't say the word property rights, it's all structured around property rights from guys like Locke. And the idea is that you own what you own at the end of the day.
Right.
Unfortunately, in the Constitution, that meant people too, but
not in the original draft, mind. Not in the original draft. Yeah.
But the idea was that you own what you own. The government can only take it for a necessary government purpose, and they have to pay you a just amount for it, which they never do. They never give you a just amount. But there was at least some written down protection that you could say, no, you can't take my stuff, and if you take my stuff, you have to give me a fair value for it. And then I can go presumably buy different stuff. And this is the first time where they're like, well, we're taking it not for a government purpose, but for a public purpose through a private company.
Yeah.
And
it was, the words they used was the ultimate public benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, holy shit. And it was Breyer who wrote it. And like, I remember years later,
I can't wait for that guy to retire and die.
He wrote like this. He like went on the radio or whatever and like defended his position, and it was the most disjointed and like unhinged rambling. But so yeah, like everything Nick said, that's exactly how it happened. There was a funny movie about it. It was really good. But then afterward, for like the first time in ever, all of these states got up and said, you know what? We're going to write extraordinary standards in our own state constitutions that say it can only be taken for public use. And some states made it almost impossible to exercise eminent domain at all. So,
and it should be like the eminent domain that I have kind of become okay with is, okay, we're going to run a sidewalk down this city street, and all of the other homeowners have said yes. And okay, we're gonna just run a sidewalk across your property, I guess. Like maybe that, or we're gonna run a power line underground in your property. It's gonna cause minimal amount of disturbance.
Yeah, those I'm okay with.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff that eminent domain is for, because that's how we got phones out to everybody. It's how we get water, gas, and electricity.
It's not how we got the railroads.
No.
Yeah.
No, railroads.
A lot of people say, well, if you don't like eminent domains, how would we have ever expanded west? It's like we did without it.
Yeah. They
bought
literally
dirt.
just bought all of it They were that rich that they bought Montana. But yeah, so it was but eminent domain, I mean, it has some limited uses that we found acceptable. It's nice when they expand a 2-lane road into a 4-lane road, but those people are getting paid for that and compensated. Right now, that's a project happening near my house, and I mean, they're doing everything. Like, they're compensating the people for the land. Some dude's entire fucking house and barn got moved. Like, the government came out and moved his house. Like 70.
They brought their special government forklift.
The government came out. Some weasel from the government came out, and a contractor did the work at the highest bill amount. But
because it was owned by a disabled combat veteran.
You joke. but so this is a great property. I was kind of sad until I realized it was moved, because I thought they burned it. But they used to have this giant shed, a metal shed, probably 20 by 40 at least. No, it had to be bigger than that. It was big from the road, and the top of the metal shed was all slanted one way, and a giant American flag was painted on it, and it said, "God bless the USA." And they had a big monster truck out front that said Trump 2020.
Yes.
It was like, okay, that's the guy that they had to move the house for. That was actually the holdout too. He's like, you're moving my whole damn house. And you're building me a new Trump shed. Fucker.
Yeah, I want another one. A bigger one. Dude, I love Trump schizoids. Like, that I know where to turn to go to my my land because of the shack with like completely unhinged pro-Trump propaganda written all over it. And I also know where to turn to go to the shooting range I'm a member of, because there's a cow farm that says Trump World with a massive hand-painted sign, and then another sign that says, Joe Biden, really? Would you hire him for any job? Come on. And I'm like, oh yeah, I turned for the range here.
We have a neighbor with a giant sign, and this is how my kids learned how to spell fuck, is because it's a giant sign that went up after election. It just says "fuck Joe Biden" and "fuck you for voting for him."
That man was feeling it. I can't imagine.
That sign is still there. It has been there every day since the election. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't fade. It's like the Turin cloth or whatever.
Is it like hand painted schizoid white? Like,
no, it's like a professionally purchased one.
Wow.
It was produced by probably a local company. But yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, it doesn't, like, it's been through hailstorms and all sorts of snow and wind and shit, and it's just the same vibrance that it was when he put it up. So I guess it's just truly good.
Damn. I need some of that sign.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna write. Okay, I'll write some unhinged shit on them.
So what kind of regulations are they trying to pass now? You said
in New York specifically?
In New York or California, those are the places I've heard. So you mentioned like heavier training requirements to get a carry permit. So
18 hours, just jacking up the prices by $50-$100 every step of the way.
Right. Because it
just
was
adding more steps.
It was like what? Like how many hours was it before? I know I had to do, I think, a 4-hour course or something here in Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, it was and I'm sorry, I don't have it all in front of me, but I mean, I think we went from single to double digits.
Yeah. So, and the problem with that, of course, is now it's 2 days. Now it's 3 days. Now it's 4 days. And each of those days,
fucking expensive.
Yeah. It's a day you got to take off work, and you got to pay more for the instructor. And those classes get really popular, so they also get more expensive, just through sheer demand, because people want them. There's not enough instructors going through. So you gotta jack up the price.
Yeah. It's wildly problematic. And I mean, and they'll always posit, and it's just a reasonable regulation, and it's because we're going to get more permit applications now because, and of course after Bruin, interest in gun ownership in New York skyrocketed like crazy.
No, but all these things are very unpopular. You got to understand that.
Well, the simple fact is, and I say this all the time, the people that are most likely statistically to be violently victimized are poor and minority people
in urban communities.
And so who is the least likely to be able to afford 18 hours of fucking training and a $200 permission slip?
Yep.
Is it the white Trump supporter that you're so angry at? I don't know.
No, because they'll forego other expenses to pay for that if they have to.
They'll be like, I will take a whole month off of my OnlyFeet subscriptions. And
but the single mom in the hood, right?
She ain't doing it.
In South Chicago, she doesn't have the time. She doesn't have the money to do it. I don't know. The welfare check isn't big enough or whatever.
So she need a bigger one.
Right. This is how they're going to do welfare reform.
It's like, I can't afford a gun.
But no, it's crazy because that has, we talked earlier about sort of this as applied standard and de facto. Oh, what's up?
Oh no, hold on. So he reminded me, this guy with the $20 deluxe chat. The wildest thing in New York is that they need to see all your social media now.
Yes.
It's like, yo, that's even weirder now. Like,
yeah.
No, thank you for bringing that up. Jezel Bear 2115, you're definitely not a furry. New York now requires you to complete social media history on a yearly basis, 28 hours of instructions, 4 references, a police interview, yearly background check, and fingerprints. It's like, well, one, you keep deleting gun people off social media, so how are you going to get the social media history?
Oh, you'll probably have to be required to somehow produce your deleted history too. Like they'll have to develop a process so that you go to Twitter and get your deleted Twitter accounts posts in some readable, searchable format for them or some bullshit.
Yeah, no. Why isn't this you have to put it in Microsoft Silverlight, please?
Why? See, I've been talking about this for years, coming in a different way, though. Hear me out. I know you're a gun guy, but
no, I'm not. No, guns are bad.
I meant a gun law guy. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. Laws are good. Yeah.
Yes, laws are great.
Yeah.
I think what's coming in terms of payment processing is going to use the model that they're using here. I think what we're going to get is the payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, even Stripe or whatever. They're going to require retailers to have someone place like their phone down on a pad that'll scan their social media to see if they are acceptable people to associate their very important payment processing brand with. And if the store doesn't do it, the store can't bank.
Or they're going to have a high risk. They're going to be categorized as high risk, and they're going to have 5% transaction costs.
Right.
Which is pretty close to how they're already doing it.
And if anybody murders someone or does a hate crime, that would have been picked up by that store will be cut off. And that's how they're going to do it. And they'll do it with cash too. It's not like this will be restricted to credit card purchases, because ultimately the banking system access comes from that point of sale system that they're incorporating.
Yeah. No, your cash is going to be on a chip too.
Yeah. Because it'll be too burdensome to keep printing all this money and have it subject to destruction, untrackable, and all of this.
It's better if they can just press the button and now there's $1 trillion more. Right.
I mean, that's what they're doing. It's how they do it so fast. The printers melted a long time ago. But yeah. So
hold on, Nick. You're not supposed to be saying that online on the internet. I'm gonna have to dock 5 credits from your social credit score.
Shit. I won't be able to rent in the upscale community soon.
Yeah, sorry, bitch. You're going upstate.
But so I've been talking about this coming through the sort of from the public side, or I guess the private industry side, for a while, because I think, with all the woke shit that's been out there and just how they police speech without the government policing speech, although I do think the government has a huge hand in it. But how they've been doing that there, to see that actually manifest in a government policy is fucking horrifying.
Well, they've been pushing for it, right? New York and California for like 4 years now. They've been sending these open letters to these credit card processing companies saying, here's what you do. And, when we'll back you up.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, and that's how they do it. And then it's like, well, it's just a private company. It's like, private companies are not acting against their own financial interests unless they think that there's a bigger financial detriment to not doing it. And the biggest one is being regulated out of existence.
Right. It's totally manic. And then people always try to get me. They're like, "Ooh, hey, career libertarian. How can you be mad at Facebook? It's a pirate company." It's like, you know, I don't know. How do you feel about, I'm going to do it again. How do you feel about public utility theory?
Okay, so
I'll explain that, but first say how you feel. If you don't want to explain it, I can.
I'm becoming much more okay with it. But I think there's a different way to do it.
I agree, but it's like a shorthand. So public utility theory, you cannot enforce the Constitution against a non-government actor unless they are acting in a certain capacity. And those capacities are where the government has granted these people a certain monopoly. So it's public utilities, right? Like the power company. It's hard to have competition in the power company because of the grid. It's hard to have competition with cable because of the grid. And so these companies are not allowed to violate your rights. They're not allowed to discriminate on you because of protected conduct. The question is now, is Facebook and Twitter and stuff, are they so intermingled with the government that it is analogous to a power company? And it's an open question. I'm not sure where it is, but I kind of like the discussion.
The discussion's really important to have. I don't know, under my understanding of state actor doctrine, they're not.
Right.
But not because they shouldn't be.
But just because the case law says they're not.
Right. State actor doctrine is just it's a really weak and limited doctrine.
Right.
For very specific reasons. However, what I really liked was what Thomas said in a decision, I think it was last year, where he basically said, we do this with we did this with telegram companies. We basically gave them this idea of something akin to a common carrier status, where we insulate you and protect you from defamation because you're just delivering a message. And you don't know anything about the message and you don't care unless you do know, unless you're given actual knowledge that this is a defamatory message and you just are innocently delivering something indiscriminately, then you can't refuse service. You can't do it. You have to provide the service to everybody. And as the exchange for that, you're getting this immunity from civil suit in these things. And it makes it really easy for them to dismiss themselves out of any lawsuits for defamation. That's a fair trade for me because we literally do that part already with Section 230 on places like Twitter and Facebook. The only thing we don't get is anything in return from them. we just gave it to them. Like, why can't we get that? Oh, yeah, you can't actually ban people unless you have a legitimate, credible threat of violence, actual knowledge of a criminal act, which typically involves a court order or something akin, or like a police report on pornography or something, child pornography. Sure. Like we want those things to be removed from, like we want child porn removed from Twitter. The only people who don't want child porn removed from Twitter is Twitter, oddly enough. But those things are what we should have, we give them immunity on from defamation and facilitating defamation and bullying and harassment. And then we say, just don't ban anybody unless you get some sort of order. So if someone's being harassed on Twitter, you file a harassment restraining order like you would anywhere else in the world. Right. Once you've got the order, you say, here you go. Can you get this person to not be able to, like, I've tried blocking them. They create stuff. Yeah. Can we enforce this? And then they ban them or whatever. But that's how it should be done. The same way everything else is handled in this country, because it's worked for a really fucking long time.
Yep. And I mean, not amazingly, right? But way fucking better than this.
Well, see, but the thing is, it not working amazingly. I wasn't talking about the system working. Right. I was talking about the union being relatively preserved, except for that brief period in the 1860s. But
which, what do we call?
The War of Northern Aggression.
Yeah.
But aside from that period of time, we have the union preserving longer than any other papered government in history. right? All these other, we've had empires last longer, but they go through massive restructuring.
Right.
They go from like a republic to a dictatorship, then back to a democracy, then to a republic again, and everything's all fucked up.
Yeah,
you have
France is heading for the Sixth Republic.
Right. And you have monarchies crumbling and new monarchies being established, and then you have this humble democratic republic sitting here just chugging along and becoming a global superpower. And really showing the world what can be done. And now we're trying desperately to undo everything that got us to showing the world how to actually run a free society.
And and people in the chat are saying that at some point we should address the case where I filed to dissolve the NFA.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
but I keep getting sidetracked. So
no, it's fun. This is what I do. My friend Othias, he's on C and Arsenal. He does the best gun content on YouTube, like actual gun tube content.
Mm-hmm.
He is so brilliant. He and I talk all the time. The difference between Americans now and Americans at the turn of the 20th century, like in World War I, everyone in the world that we interacted with were like, these people are completely amazing, because all of the accounts that people had with World War I American conscripts were that Americans were polite and curious. Like, we just went up, we were like, oh, hey, how's that work? How do you make that? And like, that was just the prevailing way Americans acted. We wanted to know how everything worked, and we were going to get it by asking politely. Fast forward a couple generations, and the boomers dick us all. Like,
yeah, no,
we're
kidding.
Completely fucked.
It's crazy to think about.
When was the last time you saw an adult like actually politely asking about how something might be done?
No, never. You only see assertions about how they would do it.
Right.
This is how I will do this thing. And yeah, the idea of, well, I mean, we've eliminated it from the education system, right? It's kind of making a comeback due to guys like Mike Rowe and others promoting like this sort of trade idea, but apprenticeship was almost completely wiped out. Like when you think about the state of apprenticeship now versus apprenticeship in I don't know, the early 1900s, where everybody apprenticed. You had to
which was
learn,
just rational.
Yeah. It's
you have to learn to use these tools. Watch me do it.
Yeah, I'll learn from the guy doing it all the time for his entire 16 hours a day, because there were no union rules back then. And so you go.
He posted.
Oh, hey, there he is.
He said, "That's a dirty liar. I never brain good."
But yeah, we've eliminated curiosity from education, and we've instead replaced it with dictation.
We need to. You don't understand this, Nick. You fucking misogynistic dipshit white Satan. You need
to
crush the desire to learn, because if we don't, people are going to ask why me, the school administrator, is making more than the teacher, right? And that there are 3 times as much of us.
Right. And we can't figure out what any of you do. You can find me in my office. I know. I can always find you in your office at any hour of the workday. You're only in your office. You're never anywhere dealing with a fucking problem. I can't find the janitor in his office. I have to find that guy. But you're always there. It's weird. No, but yeah, so instead we teach kids that at some point they will have achieved sufficient knowledge to then dictate knowledge to someone else.
Right.
We've never taught,
and they cannot be questioned as well.
Right. And we stopped teaching them that, oh, you know what? Like once you get sufficiently good at something, and this is the other part, that these teachers a lot of times have no knowledge of the subject that they're teaching. They're taught how to teach, not what they're teaching. And so you never instill in kids this idea that, no, someone is actually sufficiently good at something that you should probably ask and listen to them because they're demonstrated ability. And you probably want to anyway. But we're actually, like, independent education is kind of taking that by storm. And I do think it started with guys like Mike Rowe really bringing back the idea of trades, but I think it continues on YouTube.
YouTube is huge.
And it is where I do see what you're talking about, because I get requests all the time. How do you do YouTube? How do I build something, a channel, a social media brand? How do I build this up? I have this idea. How did you do it? And I'm like, well, I'm just retarded and fell into everything. But but someone else smart figured it out. But
Othias made me do it. He was like, Matt, upload this video and do this. I'm like, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But there are people who have demonstrated success. It's highly public, and now people are asking them, well, how do I do that? And the amount of educational content on YouTube kind of is flowing into that. People are like, oh, this guy's an engineer. I want to hear from a mechanical engineer how to make a microscope, and you can just watch a video on it now.
No, that was definitely big, because when I was younger, I wanted to get into mechanics, and I would just take apart engines, and that was all I could really do. There wasn't many other ways to grow that. And then, of course, school crushed my desire to learn. Finally, though, recently, I've just been letting the algorithm feed me happy chemicals. And I'm like, I manufacture gun parts and stuff like that, but I sit at night and I find myself learning about like fixing traces on motherboards and stuff like that. It's like, and in what other period of time where would somebody who does what I do be exposed to that kind of content? It's awesome. It's awesome.
That's how it works for me.
Really?
The algorithm has brought me to breakdancing videos and Eastern European pole vaulting videos for no reason.
The algorithm to me is like, Matt, you need to learn to use a new tool. I'm like, ooh, no tool.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, look at some chick with the last name of Poplova do pole vaulting. I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with this. This is fine. This is educational content. I don't know how to pole vault. Maybe she could show me.
Now I kind of want to look up that.
Don't. Your algorithm will break. It won't know what to do anymore.
I have been scared of that because I've been so happy with the stuff it feeds me that like someone will be like, oh, look up this song. I'll be like, no.
Yeah, you got to do that in like an incognito mode.
Yeah.
Someone says women's triple jump gang. Yes. Yep. It comes right along with the pole vaulting.
Yo, that's good.
And I legitimately don't know how it got there. That's the crazy thing. All I know is one day I'm scrolling through and there's just a bunch of asses with a pole vault in their, or like the pole in their hands. And I'm like, how did it know?
And then you clicked it as intended.
Yeah. I'm not denying. But
I do wonder if they throw in like wild cards. Like,
yeah,
one day out of nowhere, they were like, hey, Matt, wanted to watch a true crime video? And I'm like, no. And I clicked it.
I don't trust you. I don't trust you. You can click the thumbs down, or you can pull up a thing that says, I don't like this content. And then they give you more because they're assholes.
Because it got a reaction. It got a rise out of you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, ooh, they interacted with this. This is what we want. We want them clicking on the app. But, let's fast forward to the case in which you have filed this motion. And the motion basically, I'll summarize in a bad way, and you can elaborate in a much more complete way if you want. The motion basically says that the federal government has been using this standard kind of set by US v. Miller and then applied by courts following US v. Miller, most importantly, to create this hodgepodge of a standard that doesn't look like anything else. And it was kind of reinforced in Heller and McDonald, or I guess permitted in Heller and McDonald. And that was this idea that there's you'll have to articulate the test because I forget the two steps, but you're saying that after New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, the court clearly articulated that standard is not acceptable and that we moved to, I believe, a strict scrutiny standard. Or no, it wasn't strict scrutiny. It was a different wording that Alito used in the ruling, right?
It was Thomas.
Shit. I'm thinking of the abortion.
It's the text informed by the history and tradition of the United States.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Which he was, I think, just saying this is basically what Scalia meant in Heller.
Yeah, Heller was not a well done opinion.
No, I don't like it.
And Heller is, it's. I'm always hesitant to say that because people are like, it's like, no, it's dog shit. Actually, like there was no standard.
it was nice in that it protected your right to have a firearm assembled and functional in your own home. But
in Washington, D.C. on this day.
That's literally all it did. Yeah. And then McDonald just did that again, but to states. And it's like, wait, that doesn't even say I can take my gun outside on my curtilage. I mean, it literally means inside my home assembled. And that's the end of the protection. And that's crazy town, because that's not that's not keeping and bearing arms. That's keeping and bearing arms within your own home, which was already Fourth Amendment protected. So that was silly.
Exactly. And so there was no real standard announced in Heller. It was penumbral, right? And so we were grasping from all this stuff. I do think the two-step inquiry really came in after Heller. I don't think it's really related to Miller, because Miller was Miller was more clear in how it was decided. All the cases in between were kind of weird. There weren't very many of them. But after Heller, what we would get is we'd get lower courts saying, okay, step one, is this conduct protected by the Second Amendment? Okay. And then they'd literally just go blue, and like, it was a dice roll. Some states would be like, semi-automatic rifle, not Second Amendment. And and you'd be like, what did you mean by this? And the circuit court would be like, not protected, dangerous and unusual, right? They just like say random words. But or if they were like,
because like a switchblade, for example, is not an arm protected by the Second Amendment in some circuits.
Right.
And it's like, well, but how? Like, it's just a knife with a spring. How does that not like a knife is a common arm? Like it's been an arm literally since we picked up a piece of obsidian and broke it. Like, that's it. Okay. So they decide randomly, this is not protected activity.
Yeah. And then there's other circuits where they'd be like, okay, assault weapon restriction, that fits in the Second Amendment. Now we're going to decide, kind of based on intermediate scrutiny, could they maybe have done like it a little better? And there was only like one case where they ever actually overturned a law on that, and it was a magazine capacity case. And it was like, it was so clown shoes, the case, and it was like they had banned you from loading. It was something like you weren't allowed to load more than 7 rounds in a magazine, even if the magazine could hold 10. And they were like, what are you doing? Like, you can't know. What are you doing? So it was an unworkable standard, because it was not a standard. And then there was even articles from these like Harvard egghead dipshits that were like, here's what we can do. We can restrict the scope of the Second Amendment from below. It was a Yee article. And so this spread around everywhere. And so all of these lower court judges were like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So they kept torturing this test and turned it into not a test at all.
Right.
Then Bruin, sorry.
Well, just real quick. It's interesting that they kind of did an intermediate scrutiny test, because if I'm not mistaken, US v. Miller predates like articulated intermediate scrutiny by decades.
Yes. Miller was, so the test in Miller is it the type of weapon that would have been useful in military service? And they said no, because it's a shotgun, despite the fact that the US got in a little bit of trouble for quite effectively using shotguns at that time.
They did really well in World War I.
Yeah, a little bit. But they ignored that. So if Miller was properly applied when it was applied, they would have been like, oh, whoops. But so moving on from that, sorry, we were saying the standard. Just lost my train of thought. I was thinking about shotguns.
Oh, that happens to the best of us.
And the rest of us.
Every time my wife talks to me, I'm like, sorry, honey.
Just thinking about that Beretta 1301.
No, so okay, so yeah, you were talking about the standard articulated in Miller is this.
Oh,
is it protected activity? And then
now we get to Bruin
in military.
Now we get to Bruin. So that's where we're at.
What year is Bruin?
This year.
Oh, okay. This is the case. Sorry,
Serpa v. Bruin. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bruin says, literally, Thomas says,
yeah.
Previously, the courts have coalesced around this two-step framework which in some cases, including in the Ninth Circuit, literally amounted to rational basis. Because in the Ninth Circuit, if you shook the talisman of gun violence, the Ninth Circuit would go, "Oh, that's okay. That's an important government interest."
Mm-hmm.
But so Thomas says the two-step approach is one step too many. The test is, does the conduct fall under the unqualified command of the Second Amendment? So does it affect the peaceable keeping and bearing of firearms or of arms? If so, are there analogous historical regulations? Only by proving that can a regulation be consistent with the unqualified command of the Second Amendment. So the burden is on the government to prove that their type of regulation was accepted in terms of federal cases, in my opinion, around the time of the founding, and then in terms of state law after the Civil War.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of trouble finding any analogous regulations at all.
Because there was no federal gun laws until 1934, which was the law that we're talking about here.
Now, I don't know what you're talking about. Joe Biden assured me that there was tons of prohibited weapons at the time of the founding of the country.
Yeah, that you couldn't have cannons and all that.
Yeah, he said that, which you literally could have cannons, and the government had to borrow them for various wars. So like they had to borrow them from private estates, and they had to borrow warships from private companies.
That was one of my favorite things. Like after he said that, I actually did a video on the cannon thing on Fudd Busters, and I found these quotes from Ira Allen, who went to the new revolutionary government in France, right? Yeah. Before the turn of the 19th century, and bought 20,000 muskets and 24 pieces of field artillery. And on his way back, the British seized all of his stuff because he's like, the British are like, you're going to try to attack Canada. That's what you're doing with all this stuff. There's no reason a normal person would need 20,000 guns and 24 pieces of field artillery. So he goes to an admiralty court and testifies that in America, arms are free merchandise. Anyone who has property and wishes to sport with it may turn their garden into a park of artillery or their home into an armory with no fear from government. And guess what?
He won.
Yeah, they give him his shit back.
Oh, what a great line that is.
Yeah.
I want to turn my fucking garden into a park of artillery.
That sounds really cool. And I want to do that. And guess what? That was like 1794. So that's going to be relevant evidence for me.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing that people like they don't understand that they're like, but there had to be something. Like there had to be some. It's like
I did find it. I found them.
You found something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and anybody can check out my video where I went through all this. What I really enjoyed was I went through the congressional record, finding records of newspaper advertisements.
Yeah,
and I found advertisements for outfitters of private vessels. And until a certain year, I would see advertised for sale 6, 10, 12, and 18-pounder cannons, hand grenades fused and ready to be thrown, boarding pistols and cutlasses, all available only with the mark of your sigil and no further inconvenience to yourself. What year do you think was the last one I found in the record?
Shit, I have no idea.
1901.
Okay, 1901. Is there a significance tied to that year, or is that's just when you ended?
That was the last one. I was like, I'm well into the new era. I'm not going to keep looking.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. It's like it's just how it was.
No, I mean it's not crazy. It's, it's crazy to think that from 1791, well, before, but we'll establish that as the Constitution being ratified, I guess. 1791 to 1901, you have effectively no limitations at all. And people think that, no, there must have been a ton of regulation about guns or about weapons of some sort. It's like, no, people carried swords on their hips. They carried large knives on their hips when swords were impractical. And then they carried a musket, and their kids had a musket, and they may have had a pistol. They may have.
I did find cannon control though. I did find cannon control.
Okay.
Where? In the mid 1800s in Pennsylvania, if you were to fire your cannon over a road, you would be liable for a $1 fine, which I adjusted for inflation. It's like $50.
Sure. Yeah.
In Massachusetts, you could be fined several dollars for firing a cannon on Sunday without permission.
Right. Sunday is very important to keep the Sabbath. You don't.
In New York, you were not to fire a cannon within a certain number of yards from the harbor.
Okay.
And in Pennsylvania, you were not. That
actually makes sense.
Well, no, but in Pennsylvania. Go on.
Well, there could be a ship at harbor that thinks that you're firing upon them, and so
and they freak out.
Retaliatory response. That actually makes some sense to me.
A little bit. It actually, it actually does, because it might be foggy, and they might be like, "Oh shit," and start firing back.
Right. And then they're firing on the port, and you've got.
And in Pennsylvania, you could not sell a cannon to somebody less than 15 years of age. It was unlawful.
That reasonable cannon restrictions.
And this is in the 1800s. It was at least like selling a cannon to a 15-year-old was at least common enough to be contemplated by the law. So like that's our reasonable cannon control from the time.
Well, you gotta figure that. Since kids were largely in the home, there's no public school system. And really at that time, you're not talking about really community school systems being developed either.
Right.
So you've got kids being the errand boys of the house and specifically the boys. And so what
the boys were much better errand boys.
They'd send the family member with the personal sigil or seal to go along with the servant or help of a large estate to probably go pick up cannons or something like that. I mean, that makes that, so they probably had to send their kids. So you'd send your 12-year-old, load the 12-pounders in the back.
Yeah. Can you get me that case of hand grenades I ordered from George's? They're fused and ready to throw.
What a time to be alive.
The only downside would be I was gonna say the downside for me would be the lack of insulin. That would be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, that would be bad. Like the dysentery would be rough.
Yeah,
I think.
The cholera. Everything else though, lack of air conditioning.
Just the idea of what history really was, and so many people don't realize that our country was founded and built on as close to freedom as we could get. Like that was the idea that the founders, they said, well, first, everybody ignores the Articles of Confederation, which was more freedom, which is why the sovereign citizens love them. But it was more freedom, but it wasn't enough because there wasn't enough federal power to keep the states from being dicks to each other.
Taxing each other's goods.
But it wasn't really about the people. The Articles of Confederation, it wasn't like the people had too much freedom. They're not like, well, we need to fix this. They're just like, no, the states were literally imposing taxes for crossing borders, even temporarily. They would tariff a good traveling through the state, and they would tariff it massively because that's just what they would do.
Because we don't like each other.
Right. So we had to have, because we were a bunch of sovereign nations. Another thing everybody kind of glosses over. And so then we're like, well, we're going to create this constitution, which is a little bit stronger federally. We're going to lay out these federal powers to just prevent stuff like that. But other than that, it was like, no, you get to do kind of literally anything you want. Like you want to go claim a plot of land west, go do it, stake it out, chop down the trees and build a damn house. And really the crazy thing in the farther east you go, the shorter these timelines are, you could adverse possession property in New York, in Maine, or whatever in like 5 years.
Right.
So if you just grabbed a piece of forest, built a house on it, and no one bothered you for 5 years, that was yours. Like you got whatever you claimed. And then,
because waste was regarded as like the most horrible thing you could do.
Yeah, it's like, why do you own all this? You're not using it. There's people who would put the land to more productive use, so let them do it. But that's how free it was, that you could literally take stuff.
I love the old descriptions of the beach. It was like the old cases about like very old property cases where they refer to as they were on that barren wasteland known as the beach.
Well, you got to realize that beach led to the dark abyss of the ocean, which held all sorts of demons. Very terrifying.
Yes.
But you've filed the motion following Bruin, which my brain always just thinks Rifle Pistol Association. So you filed the motion following Bruin, saying that effectively US v. Miller is, as applied, upheld by an unconstitutional standard. That's the standard being articulated in Bruin is contrary to what is being done with Miller, right?
Well, so again, I don't think Miller's terribly relevant. I think that it's the National Firearms Act.
Okay, so you cited the act in the in the thing. My brain replaced Miller with it. I haven't.
Yeah,
I didn't.
It's okay. I have brain stuff too.
No,
it's from our law school years, right? All of the Adderall is drilled the holes. It can never be filled.
Modafinil.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. I did that too. Sorry. There's my brain. No, so it was the NFA has never faced meaningful constitutional review, and under the standard set forth in Bruin, I believe this earnestly, it is facially unconstitutional, and in such event that it is not, it is clearly unconstitutional as applied to my client, because bear in mind, my client is accused by the government of talking about a drawing of something that they have not even properly alleged to be a machine gun part. So this is the auto key card case. It is a stainless steel little Douglas. It could be used for it's a bottle opener, it's a Bingus, it's a tchotchke, which is how I describe it in our motion. And it has a laser drawing on it, just a laser line drawing. It's nondescript. The government never properly alleged what it was a drawing for. We don't know exactly. What
design?
Because it could I don't know what the exact dimensions are on the design. They won't. Anyway, so it's just a very light. We're talking a couple thousandths of an inch, can barely even scratch your finger, right? Engraving. Yeah. They're saying that this is a machine gun conversion device, and their evidence is that they had a government agent sit there with a Dremel for hours and make one from it. And my client, they're alleging, advertised this product on a YouTube video. So it's like, this is the most clown shoes fucking way to apply this law possible. So it's certainly, I mean, I've raised void for vagueness. I've raised First Amendment concerns. I've raised, it's like, this thing is unconstitutional in so many fucking ways. It's out of control.
Yeah. Now, without getting into the dimensions of the actual like drawing, because I don't know them either, but the thing it's like a credit card sized piece of metal.
Yeah.
Effectively, right? Because I talked about this, and it's interesting because you're talking about it's literally a drawing. There's no perforation. It's not like it's a punch out thing, because I know that some people have gotten into trouble with punch outs of certain designs or whatever. But this is just like something that you could, in theory, throw in a wallet or whatever. You've got this metal thing. Maybe you like art. It doesn't matter why you have it. Art. This is America. You don't have to have a reason to have anything.
And the best art in the world calls into question things.
Right.
Like, that's what art is. It's not supposed to be a pretty flower. It's supposed to make you think.
That fucking idiot Banksy or whatever. That's his whole gig when he sells the stupid drawing. There's a piece of shit drawing, by the way. And it's like for 1.2 million. And then once the auction closes, it goes and shreds the drawing.
Yeah.
And like, that was funny as a troll move.
Yeah.
But it was like that. His whole thing is like, yeah, this is trash.
Yeah. But then the debate was, is it worth more or less now?
Less. Objectively, it was all, the joke was funny. but that's all that it was worth.
I do remember reading about that in like, I used to take the metro when I was in DC, and I would read fucking print rag trash, and I read an article that was like debating about whether its value had actually increased at that point.
Did you see the jackass who sold the invisible statue for like $86,000?
No, I didn't.
He's like, it's a sculpture. And there's nothing there. There's literally nothing there. And he's got like taped off on the floor this like 3 foot by 3 foot area. And he's like, the sculpture fits in the negative space. And so then someone buys it for $86,000. He flies to their house to consult on the location of the sculpture for delivery. And he demands like all of these things. Like he's like, no, it has to be in this space. And you have to put it up on a podium. Like, bro, there's nothing there. It's just air.
My man sold some air.
It's the greatest grift I've ever. He didn't even bring the air with him. It's not like he hauled a bag.
Yeah, he didn't like have like a jar or whatever.
No, he's just like, this is here it is. What an ass.
That's so I want to see the fucking people who bought that.
Yeah,
I wish I could have been a fly on that wall, right?
I want to see if the sculpture's still there, if like one of their grandkids has knocked it over.
Can you imagine that? Jimmy knocked it over. He was like, what?
Rubbing the air on your body. But I mean, joke as it may be, but that was art to someone. Like that's the whole purpose of it. That art is. I'll describe art this way. Art is my ability to say fuck you to whatever you think. Like that's ultimately that's what it is. If I want to buy a negative space sculpture and just keep this 1 3 foot by 3 foot area in my house clear forever, fuck you. Maybe I just go lay in it and cry at night.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm about.
That's the only space in my house that my wife hasn't tried to put IKEA furniture in. Okay, it's just this one spot, and that's the only way. Like, no, honey, it's art. I need this. And I just go lay in it every night and just curl up. That's what art is. And so, yeah, no, this case is crazy. The one you're talking about, because
remember, I'm representing the guy who me and my partner, Zach, we're at zermaylaw.com. You got civil rights issues. Somebody sends you a spam text call in Florida, go to zermaylaw.com. Anyway, we're representing the guy who talked about it.
Yeah.
That's you just got to wrap your head around that. Like that's how fucking clown shoes were at.
Right. That's where I was going before I tangented. And thanks for bringing me back, because that's what I covered. And people were like, you need to cover this case. And I started looking at him like, wait, so he didn't even make the thing? Like it was on his show.
Yeah.
So he's in violation of the NFA for potentially advertising something. Like that's the allegation in the complaint is that he advertised this thing. And it's like,
it's a conspiracy.
So and it's beautiful. Criminal conspiracy is great. But yeah. So if I talk about like a 1989 machine gun, which would be illegal to purchase in the US, like, man, it would be great if you could buy that through recadolaw.com, which you can't. But hypothetically, like if I said that, now I'm engaged in a criminal conspiracy with someone who's illegally manufacturing machine guns for private purchase. And so now I can go to prison for it. It's fucking crazy.
It's like, I've spent a lot of time thinking about like how to properly explain how fucked up this is. And I've bounced with clown shoes. I've bounced with knuckle dragging, window licking, mouth breathing. It's no matter how you slice it, this is fucked. Like I can't even comprehend where are the equities here?
Right. It's a gross overreach, especially for a criminal prosecution. Now, I could hypothetically, in some
arguendo,
some far off land, see where someone potentially advertised something that caused someone else harm, and then they get wrapped up in a civil conspiracy issue, like a civil tort conspiracy.
Right.
But we don't really do criminal liability for shit that's not with an obvious criminal intent. And even even if some court were somehow to determine that this thing, this card, this metal business card, for lack of a better word, were regulatable under the NFA, no one would have had knowledge that this is a regulatable item prior to this criminal case.
Oh, and check this out. Check this out. ATF did a huge rulemaking on what is a firearm frame or receiver. They talked about suppressors. They talked about 80%. They talked about this. They talked about that.
Right.
Did they mention this?
No, of course not.
No.
Because no one would think that, like, if I want one, because I want to walk around and do a man on the street video and say, is this a machine gun? And just have people look at me like I'm a fucking idiot.
One day offline, one day soon offline, I want you to call me and I want to tell you some of my trial strategies that I'm not going to say publicly, but I think you're going to, like.
Sounds great. I am 100% down for that. Wait, but I got to stop you in tangent real quick. You mentioned spam text calls in Florida. Okay. What if I'm in Minnesota, but what if I get these calls or like these texts usually all the fucking time to purchase a property that I don't own, but my parents own in Florida? But I get the texts. So I don't know if they're like,
oh no, yeah, no, send me that shit. Yeah. I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
Because I usually just like pick up and yell at them in Arabic or whatever. Not really. It's fake Arabic.
So do you know about the, like, of course, you know that the feds killed the FCPA,
the Fair Credit Protection Act, right? Or no, what's
FTCPA?
Okay, that's the fair. I don't even remember. Okay,
I don't remember. So what is that?
Is that what it implemented, like the no call list or whatever for cell phones?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And I might be getting the acronyms wrong. Acronyms are stupid and I don't like them. But so the feds got rid of this stuff that like basically prevented and put fines on people for spam calling you. Well, in Florida, we got a deluxe one. We got FDUTPA and we got the FCCPA. And we got several Florida specific laws where it's like, if people, they basically have turned maniac plaintiff attorneys like me and my buddy Zach into private attorneys general, where if you get a spam text that you weren't asked for, there's a few, elements to it. Basically, we get to go just terrorize these fuckers.
Well, that would be hilarious. I'll dig through my text messages because I save all of them, and I'll
like this, like Florida shit, bro. Like, let me fucking go. I love it. No, I love it because, dude, this is a bipartisan issue. Everybody hates spam texts.
Yes,
everybody hates spam texts. 100%.
Lately, I'm getting them for. I'm like, what do they know about me that I don't know yet? I keep getting them for like Viagra. Like just a million of them.
Well, you have heard about the one case where what was it, like Target or whatever told of dad that his daughter was pregnant before he knew, because like her shopping habits had gotten them to start sending like maternity catalogs.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Maybe they're onto something.
Maybe I'll have to ask myself later.
Yeah.
Do you even work?
You wake up, you piece of shit.
I look like fucking Mark Wahlberg at the end of Boogie Nights. Like, come on.
Listen, Nick's dick. I have shown you the cutest anime girls, and you are still sleeping.
That's why. I can only get erect to a giant pillow now. It's the way it goes. But no, so yeah, okay. So I will legitimately, because they live in Florida, and for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but people think I'm my dad. I mean, I look like him, but other than that, I don't get it. And so I get them from Minnesota too, but I get the Florida ones a ton. Hey, are you interested in selling this property? I'm like, who the fuck are you? No, I don't ever respond.
I actually really, so the parcel that I have in Orlando, that's my little gun range. which I go to every week and dump a few mags out of my registered machine guns to keep the property values down. It's actually legally 2 parcels. And so one of the first things they always say when we file on one of these things is, no, that wasn't a robocall. We did that individually. We manually typed that in. When I get 2 texts 30 seconds from each other saying, I'm interested in your property on blah, blah, blah. I'm interested in the property on blah, blah, blah. And it's the 2 adjoining properties. Like, oh yeah, that wasn't a fucking robocall. All right, motherfucker.
Yeah, I will. All of mine, they're all the same message every single time.
Yeah.
But someone said something. Oh, Nick's condom purchases have dropped off. Dude, the last time I bought a condom was like 2003. And I didn't even buy it. I just got it from the campus. The campus health center or whatever. They just gave them out. I hate them. They're terrible. If I were to buy one now, it'd be like to do the Coneheads thing and just chew it up like bubble gum. Fuck condoms. I hate condoms.
I like the Crown ones.
I don't know these.
They're the whatever. It doesn't fuck it. Anyway, let's keep going.
I have 5 children. So like I clearly don't believe in them. They're
I want kids. That's cool. I'm jealous.
Well, you should get some.
I'll go buy some.
If you have enough guns, you can get kids pretty easy. just ask those guys in Africa. They went.
There's multiple ways. There's several. There's several avenues. Matt, with your assets, we've got several options to consider.
This stream should get banned. Not that it won't, but it should. It should. Okay, so you're challenging the NFA.
Yeah. Facially and as applied.
I won't ask you about the chances of it, but to me,
my crystal ball's in the shop.
And mine is my crystal ball. I shattered it after Roe got overturned. So like my expectations are gone because I was like, I think you can find a video of me last year saying, come on, guys, there's literally no fucking way ever that Roe will actually get overturned. They're just going to maybe use Casey and do and reduce the time to
they're going to move the time a little more.
Right. It'll be 15 weeks or whatever, because it doesn't make sense to be 24 weeks when we've had 20-week-old babies being born. So roll the time back. There's no way on earth Roe is going away. I mean, it'd be really interesting to see what would happen in that shit show, but there's no, and then the mad lads do it.
Fucking did it. No, dude, I've said that at several FedSoc chapters when like people will be like, oh, right, but so what do you think they're going to do here? And I'm like, the status quo is set. Why would they touch it?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay.
Then they not only touched it, they put their fingers all the way in its butt.
Yeah, they picked it up and went. Which was kind of, I mean.
It's a postpartum abortion.
It's an
They aborted it in its midlife
What trimester are we on road?
All of them.
671st trimesters.
Imagine your kid's like 50 years old and he goes out and he goes to do his midlife crisis and he buys a Volkswagen Beetle, and the 70-year-old dad has been a mechanic his entire life just walks up and shoots him in the head and says, I never liked you. That's what they did.
I'm aborting you. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to talk to a medical professional and have a conversation about this.
So I don't know. Like I'm sitting here. I saw your motion on Twitter and I was like, I don't know if it could work, but everything I've ever thought has been turned upside down this year.
Well, you got it. All right. So you read it?
No. Oh. I skimmed it. I very, very briefly skimmed it. Should I is it, of course it's worth a read. You wrote it, but is there something specific in there I should read it for?
No, like, I just think it's legally solid.
I think what I'll do, because I've wanted to put together just a video kind of breaking it down, explaining what's going on. So I'll probably do that. And
if you want my help, I'm happy to talk with you. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to, if you have an easy PDF of it, just if you could send it to me, on either Twitter or you responded to my so today, legit.
Bro, you've been hold on. Let me tell you guys, I've been emailing this cat for 2 years.
He has. It's my fault. I know I'm terrible. Today was super weird. So I went to visit a friend, and it was like an hour and a half away. And so I drove down, hung out with him, and then drove back home. I got home and I was super tired. So I just passed out for a couple hours. And I was like, okay, I'm going to wake up. And I was going to do 2 streams tonight. I was going to do the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing during the daytime evening. And then I was going to do the stream with you tonight. And I looked at my phone and I pulled up your Twitter thing and like, he has not responded. Okay, he must be busy. I don't know. I checked yesterday and you responded early yesterday. That's the weird thing. You're like, sure. And I was like, and so I looked yesterday evening and I looked today specifically and I was like, well, I guess I'll just make my fucking link for tonight then. And that'll be fine. I'll do the Johnny Depp thing. And I made the link early. And I was, and that was that. And I was like, I'll try and get him next week while I'm in Florida.
But where's your excuse? We're on June 30th. You said, hey, blah, blah, what day works for you? And I'm in a tizzy. I said, tizzies are the Norman R line of work. Your streams are always late night, right? If so, I'm generally staring at cute anime girls by that time anyhow, so any day. And then he's
doxing my DMs right now. This man is unethical.
That's right.
No, it's just let me know a date. And then I waited till Wednesday because I'm so bad at checking things.
That's okay.
It's not personal. It's really not.
You're a busy man.
No, actually it is personal. Not with you though. It's with you, chat.
Chat.
Yeah. I told you. Yeah. You listen to C Goody.
Yeah, fuck you.
C Goody, the asshole telling you fucker. He every day he's like, Nick loves emails, send him emails. So every day I get spammed with a shitload of emails that just say, hey, heard you like emails. Her. And so I'm sitting there going through deleting all these fucking things. It's C Goody's fault for 2 years now.
That's okay. That's pretty brutal. That's actually kind of like awful.
I hate it. Most days I don't even check email because I fucking hate email. So it's become worse than the U.S. Postal Service. Email is more of a pox on my life than the Postal Service.
Oh my gosh.
And I hate the Postal Service.
Nick, don't say weird stuff like that.
Dude, I hate them. And I hate email more. I hate it. So not your fault. It's literally your fault. You're the ones doing it. Batgoat, I'm sure you've done it personally.
Yeah, fuck you, chat. Yeah, die, bitch. Yeah.
Damn it.
Fuck you.
Are we doing reverb now?
No.
I don't know if mine even works. Does this work?
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up sounding.
Good. I've got a whole bunch of different ones I could do. But anyway, so when is this do you have a motion hearing date or anything for it? Or are they going to do
We haven't got a response yet. The response is due fairly soon. And we've got a lot of motions pending on this. Like it's not exactly clear when the next movement's going to be right now.
Sure. Is there anything specific you anticipate in the response? Like, I mean, the government has to reconcile the fact that Thomas did articulate for the first time ever a clear standard.
Right.
And they're going to have to try and work around that.
Well, and I preempted in the motion what I thought their response would be, which is like, and they've been used to just because of dicta and Heller that said dangerous and unusual, blah, blah. I explain and I cite back where that was them opining on something that may possibly be an acceptable regulations. They were not undertaking a historical analysis and a decision of what is and is not regulable.
Yeah, because the weird thing about dangerous and unusual is everything mentioned in dangerous and unusual is, well, we're talking about guns. So they're all dangerous, although they're not dangerous. The operator is the dangerous person, right?
So it comes from the Statute of Northampton, which is, a 1200 era English law where the king was a little scared because the kings kept getting they got haircuts a little low. Okay, and so they were a little freaked out, and the law said, it regulated the carrying of dangerous and unusual weapons in such a way as would naturally cause terror.
Okay, so
that's where that comes from, that language.
If you are walking through downtown swinging a Morning Star
Right.
over your head.
Yeah.
Because that person might be unhinged.
Right.
And that's a weapon that at a time was not even in its prime is not super common.
Right. The average person carried a dagger.
Right. So walking around carrying this uncommon medieval weapon, swinging it around, which would cause, passersby apprehension. If I get close to that guy, am I going to get clocked? Is he going to swing this thing at me? That's fucking weird. Carrying a sword with a bunch of blood on it, carrying it out, like licking it or something.
Yeah.
That's weird shit.
Yeah.
That we're talking about. This is not an AR slung over a shoulder. Right?
It was designed to target murder gangs that were going to,
so you're talking like bats with nails in it. Gangs of New York shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
That chick with the fucking Freddy Krueger claws or whatever.
Right.
Like this is weird stuff that we've got. These look like implements of pain and destruction.
And you have to remember, though, they didn't ban the dangerous and unusual weapons.
Right.
They banned the carrying of them in a way as to cause terror.
Okay, that's fantastic.
And so that's where that language comes from. And that's what I explained in the thing. And so I reiterate, I said, that is not the standard. You cannot simply assert that a weapon is dangerous and unusual. One, it has to be dangerous and unusual at the time you regulated it, right? Because to hold otherwise, and this is something that actually in the Post-Bruin stream, one of your guys was like, oh, well, they couldn't get after the NFA because it's been too long and it's dangerous and unusual. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, actually, because if you held that way, the government would be able to just regulate early and aggressively and be like, oh, no, this is just gone because we banned it the moment it came out.
Right. Which that doesn't work because
it doesn't follow.
You just, I'm going to ban laser guns. And when they eventually come out, well, fuck you. They've been banned for 50 years. We just made them, though. Too bad. I banned them back then.
Yeah.
But no. So that's a really interesting concept. I didn't know that about the dangerous and unusual the origin of the statute. Because the problem I have is when they're talking about dangerous and unusual weapons, they're literally talking about fully automatic, which is not any more dangerous than a normal, than a non-fully automatic rifle.
There's
in
no
fact,
principal distinction. Yeah.
Arguably less dangerous.
In most instances to the target. In most instances, most instances people think of. I think there are some instances where your combat efficacy increases, but again, it's a sine wave. It's not a principal distinction.
Right. Yeah. And it's certainly, they're not unusual in any way. I mean, they're common military weapons. They're the most common, I guess technically a pistol is probably issued to just about everybody, whereas a fully automatic rifle would be issued to some slightly smaller subset. But effectively, they're ubiquitous in the military. So they're not unusual.
Well, and bear in mind, before 1934, you could go into the hardware store and they had Colt Browning potato diggers there for $8, which is one of the earliest light mounted machine guns.
Right. And then the other dangerous and unusual weapons, you've got handheld explosive devices or any explosive round at all.
Right.
But again, these aren't unusual or particularly dangerous on their own. A hand grenade is innocuous until you pull a pin and throw it. Otherwise it will sit there literally for eternity.
Just chilling.
Just not blowing up. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff, of course, you've got short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns, which that actually is closer to the statute when you think of the reason that those are banned, but not the language that they use to ban them. I mean, they just ban them blanket as a category, or regulate them, I should say, blanketly as a category. But it's in response to the Valentine's Day massacre and mob activity where
the real target was handguns.
Oh, okay. But they didn't get those.
So all of the original drafts banned handguns. That was the purpose. And you know why they targeted short-barreled rifles and shotguns? And this is in the congressional testimony. Because they said, well, if you are to ban the handgun, what is to prevent a man from purchasing a rifle, cutting it down, and having the effective equivalent? And so they were like, oh, and so they actually added the short barrel rifles and shotguns. They were like, oh, you're right, that's an end run around the law, and so they added it in, and then they took the handguns out, and then they didn't take the end run around the law around. So the prohibition, the regulation on short barreled rifles and shotguns is literally to prevent a loophole around a law that never existed.
Oh my God. What a terrible
Alex, shut up.
What a terrible method of doing. And it goes back into this all being reactionary to a government created problem, by the way. Oh, it's a good boy.
She's a girl.
Good girl, I guess.
Yeah. It's a girl dog. You need to respect her genders, right, Rose?
Look, I never trust a bitch's pronouns. But no, good boy's just the meme.
Yeah.
I think it's agendered.
I'm joking. It doesn't matter. It's a dog.
No, it matters. Stop.
Rose, does your gender matter? Rose, does your gender matter?
Snort.
Oh, the chat's freaking the fuck out.
Oh, they love dogs.
Yeah.
I got two of these. Broken people.
This one was free.
What is that?
She's a corgi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like the kind of like meme corgi, which is all that one like tan color with the white.
Well, I got that one. Alex, come here. Let me get that one. Hold on. I got that type.
He's got as many corgis as he got rifles. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the big one.
That's Ein right there. That's the Cowboy Bebop corgi that we're all thinking of.
That's definitely not the reason I got her. Definitely not. It 100% wasn't Cowboy Bebop that I got this corgi.
So I was thinking of something. Oh yeah, so it's crazy that they've how they've done the regulation, but I just hate the dangerous and unusual thing. It doesn't make any sense.
It's being wielded with such severity, and it is not. It's like they're swinging it around like a sword, and it's actually a baguette. Is what's going on.
Well, and like when you think of suppressors, I mean, suppressors are dangerous and unusual items, which is crazy. Like this thing. It technically reduces the lethality of the round that passes through it.
Well,
it lowers the velocity, the muzzle
not
velocity,
really.
Right? Doesn't.
Not.
I don't know.
Not in a like appreciable way.
Well, it should. We need to regulate it so it does. Now I agree with the government.
Yeah. Well, so and the interesting thing about about adding suppressors was that all of the stuff in the NFA, I found reasons for why it was added, except silencers.
Okay.
It got stapled on in a voice vote, and then no one ever talked about it again.
So, I mean, I think Hollywood is the reason that they're added. But
it was 1934. There was no Hollywood with suppressors.
Oh, shit. They've been... I didn't think they were regulated that long. I thought they were later.
They literally... Okay. So, there was the Maxim silencer and, like, I think one or two other models. And they were, like... These really dope steampunk looking wild ass things that you could put on your Winchester.
Yeah.
And then just randomly one day someone was like, we should have a silencer. And then the voice vote, they're like, yeah. And then they never talked about it again.
Is this all just in response to the fear of mob violence? Like, I mean, mobster violence.
Yes.
Like it's all just in that category. Like you've got, I guess, Molotov cocktails are a thing. You've got the sawed-off shotguns. I mean, I know you said they're in response to pistols, but then kind of the idea is that they might hide one of these sawed-off shotguns or rifles in a trench coat, right? And then they could just pull them out at will and mow down a group of their enemies. This is the first machine gun regulations, the St. Valentine's Day massacre, in response to this guy, right? See my gun right here.
Yeah, Tom, Mr. Tom. Bad gun.
So silencers make sense in that respect too. If you're thinking assassination, I guess, even though they don't function in the movie way, they're still considerably
no, if you're delivering like fuckloads of joules to something, right? Like one dickload foot-pounds, it's going to make noise.
Yeah,
like,
it's just
required.
It is an explosion that occurs, and it comes out of something.
Math and physics occurreth.
Yeah. So that's pretty wild. So I'll be interested to see how it goes. I really hope your client gets justice, because what's happened to them from my initial read of the case is absolute bullshit. Like that alone is insane, that they're even charged, that I don't agree, but I could kind of see the government charging the other person, only because I think the government is so stupid that they would, the creator of the card.
Right.
But the guy who talks about it, where even if he had advertised it in a paid sponsorship, which I don't know if he did or not, I think that's the allegation from the state. But even if he did it in a paid sponsorship, I'm not seeing how advertising the purchase of an item conspicuously would fall into this person is conspiring to commit a criminal act.
Right.
Like I
also, whatever happened to asking, like, okay, who got hurt?
Yeah. Who got hurt? What gun was converted to an automatic weapon that can be traced back to this? Where did the law actually get broken at any point?
Right. And also, who cares?
That's the real answer. Right. But like going with the cucked government answer, the government explanation for why they're pursuing a prosecution, when I don't know, there's child trafficking, there's all sorts of horrific nonsense going on in the world, and you're going after a guy who talked about this little thing that someone somewhere might someday try to use for a nefarious purpose.
Right.
Maybe, but probably not. Because you don't need to. Like if you're a bad guy and you want an automatic gun, you can just get one, rather than going through the work of purchasing this thing, dremeling it out, and maybe having it function as some
and also I've worked as a gunsmith, I've worked in manufacturing on these parts, not these specific ones, but right. There are several ways to make an AR-15 fully automatic. The way that they are alleging, right, like, this thing that they are alleging it's a drawing of is one of the most dipshit dog-ass ways to possibly do it. Those old lightning links, the ones that they're alleging that this is the same as, you needed a Colt SP1 bolt carrier. Very specific ban era bolt carrier, not a regular M16 full auto bolt carrier. You needed to dick with your fire control pocket. You needed to tune it to fit right around the thing. You needed to tune the end of it. You had to bend it slightly until it just timed up just right. It's like, yo, people are buying auto sears from China.
Yeah.
You
just get them.
Why do you care?
Well, it's a statement. I think the fact that that there's a YouTuber involved, there's a public personality, and they get to make an example of someone who's doing this in public, and therefore they think that'll have some sort of impact. Probably because they're specifically in public in the gun community, and so I think the messaging is what matters to them.
It could be. I won't pretend. My mama always told me, if you sit around asking why an irrational actor did something, you too will lose your rationality.
And you also, and then there's the other Hanlon's razor, right? Never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by incompetence.
Right.
So it might just be the feds are fucking dumb.
Yeah, the feds are this horrifying, hyper expensive, massive. So there was a case. It's a very old case that it referred to the federal criminal system as a massive, slow, expensive, and cumbersome machine, and that's how I've always viewed them. They're like the world of the wars, the War of the Worlds, crab monsters that are just like very slow, and you're just like, and I'm sitting here like, oh geez, here they come. We're gonna go to trial at some point.
Yeah, it's I know discerning federal action is just crazy. They're like a toddler that is given the powers of God.
Right. No, it's like, oh my God. Yeah. When I used to work with Clark Neely, he used to always say, playing regulatory games with the government is like playing a game with a 4-year-old. And when you're playing a game with the 4-year-old, the game is I win.
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of this, I had to yell at my she's 7 now, my 7-year-old, because my 4-year-old was playing Minecraft with my 7-year-old.
Well, that's not acceptable.
And the 7-year-old started mining crystals. I don't fucking know about Minecraft. And the 4-year-old says, they were secret. And I was like, what the hell is this? So my 7-year-old's hilarious. She's the most loving child on the planet, except she's also a horrifically violent monster.
Oh no.
So it's like she's like she's like Two-Face. And so she's so sweet until you mess with her. So the 4-year-old was like, you took my secret crystals and killed the 7-year-old. So the 7-year-old decides to just beat the 4-year-old in real life. Right. So I come downstairs. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Because everybody's screaming and crying. And I'm like, it's Minecraft. But that's the mentality that both of them had. They're the government. I mean, that's what they are. They're the government and how they act. It's like,
they are literally both the government.
Think about this. You took my secret crystals. You know what the 7-year-old said? I had no idea they were secret.
Right.
I didn't know they were secret. You just told me you told me there were crystals. So I came to harvest the crystals, but now they're secret. That's what's going on here. You've got this card with the design on it, and the government's like, you took my secret thing. And your
I get to lock you in my cage now.
Right. Your client's like, I didn't know these were secret. What the hell?
In fact, he specifically spoke to somebody at the ATF who said those crystals are okay. And so it's like, because that's on his channel, right? Where he said that before, he was like, yeah, no, I talked to my local ATF agent and he said these are good to go. And it's like, hey, government, did you forget this whole thing called Cienter that you broke here? Like,
oh God, it's I hate these people.
It's
like they're
you can't hate them. Like I'm a Christian.
You can't.
I like to handle this in a way, right? Because I want to hate them. And so how I get around that is I don't consider them people. They're automatons. And
I don't hate them. I devalue and dehumanize.
Well, no, they're not. See, they're not. It's not their fault. They don't wake up in the morning every day. Somebody goes behind them and takes the big key and goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
And so you can't be mad at that. You can't hate that. You have to just go, oh, poor thing. You're a little automaton spring thingy.
It's such a. I mean, some of them. Prosecutors are different, though. Prosecutors are evil. But
I can tell you. You've been a defense lawyer a few times.
But no, it's like I tell the story of this guy, Harold Root, I don't know. He was a Minnesota medical device manufacturer. They make stents. And he got federally indicted for false advertising, FDA approval on an item. The crazy thing is that even if the government were 100% correct in all of its assertions made at trial, what he would have done was legal. And they didn't do that. They didn't do that because they had an abundance of caution. They're like, we don't want to step on any toes. But everything that they said he did was legal to do. And when the defense, when the plaintiffs when the government rested, his defense attorney stood up and said, Your Honor, the defense rests, and sat down. They had they won. They won a full acquittal. But because literally everything was legal to do, and then they had nothing. But it didn't matter. The guy's entire life all of his professional relationships, all of his personal relationships. He was federally indicted as a false advertising predatory monster for 18 months by the government because somebody decided, hey, if I prosecute this guy, I could maybe run for Senate. Right? Like that's how it went. A DA was going to they were going to get a headline case tough on this monster who lies about their medical devices. And the best part was he wasn't even involved in the thing at all. So he's the CEO of the company. One sales manager in one branch office violated company policy and put at a sales meeting onto 3 flyers for their 3 sales associates that this one stint could be used for a purpose that they were pending FDA approval on.
Wow.
They actually had FDA approval on the stint itself, but not for this specific alternative purpose.
Yeah.
That was, and it was pending, and they would probably have it because they had it on every other stint for like, it would have been there in probably 6 to 8 months. And this accounted for less than like 0.1% of their sales, this particular stint. And the CEO gets charged with this. He had no knowledge that this occurred, had specific directives against doing this. And still it doesn't matter. And so that's the crazy thing. Like your guy calls ATF and says, no, this is fine. These are okay. Don't even worry about it. So he's like, yeah, I called ATF. It's okay. Here's this thing. You can check out this cool piece of art that you can own, carry around with you, make a statement. And then boom. Nope. Sorry. You're arrested.
Yeah. You get to come to our special cage.
Oh my God.
They fought us on pretrial release too.
Yeah. Of course they did. Your client was a danger to the community and every other community. How dare you actually, I assume you won the pretrial release.
Yeah.
That's because you're a monster.
Well,
what's your middle name? Is it Hitler or Adolf?
It does start with M.
Oh shit. Okay, I need to start reading super chats.
Super chats.
Are you good to hang out for a bit?
Yeah.
Okay, let's read some of these super chats. Any of these you want to jump in on? The early ones are going to be about Amber Heard probably. Any you want to jump in on? Feel free.
How do I do them?
I'm going to read them out loud.
And what do you mean jump it like responding?
Like if you want to say anything about them.
Oh, okay.
Or if you come up with something completely different that you want to talk about, we can do that too. Yeah. I have no agenda.
This guy keeps saying if I'm going to buy a new Genesis Arms AR-10, that's really, I don't like shotguns. Shotguns are for boring people.
Well, what if you want to trap shoot? Like, what if you want to put a transsexual person in a launcher? Wait,
the only shotgun is the Browning Auto 5.
So if you want to put a Caitlyn Jenner in a launcher and throw them over a swamp and then shoot them while they're in the air, which gun do you use?
For legal reasons, I won't answer that.
Okay, how about Jaitlyn Kenner? A fictional person?
Yes. It's the counterpart of Herlock Sholmes.
Yeah. No, I want a shotgun because I have my backyard. So I live in Minnesota, which is shit. But at least I'm in the pro gun part of the state. And my backyard is beautiful. And it goes down into a slough and there's nothing. There's no neighbors or anything back there. So it's like picturesque for trap shooting.
Right.
And so I wanted to buy a shotgun. What shotgun should I buy for that?
It would depend on the budget. I mean, my
unlimited. I don't know. It's no budget. What is it?
A Browning Satori.
How much does that cost?
A few grand. But the affordable gun that is wonderful and that I adore so much is the Browning Auto 5 because it's really funny and the barrel flops back and forth and it was designed by John the 10 Commandments Moses Browning.
Flops back and forth. I don't know.
So it's long recoil. So have you ever seen a 50 cal machine gun shooting and you see the barrel flopping back and forth inside the gun?
Oh yeah, because it's got like a dampener.
Yeah, the barrel is actually recoiling with the cartridge, and then the extractor holds the cartridge, the barrel goes forward, and then it kicks the shell out. So the Browning Auto 5 does that, and so you'll be shooting 12 gauge loads, and the gun's not moving. Aside from it internally flopping around, they're just so soft shooting and they're semi-automatic and like
Ooh.
they're from the very early 1900s. They were like the first semi-automatic shotgun, and I still think they're the best.
That's crazy.
That's normally what I shoot like skeet with.
How hard are those to get?
Oh, it's so easy.
These are a common thing.
They made like a guerrillion of them. Just make sure you buy a Belgian one, like before the 1960s.
I'm gonna have
you don't want one of those Japanese shotguns. You don't want those. You want a Belgian one.
I don't want a Japanese anything because it'll be like because I'll buy and they'll be like, oh no, this is a 200-year-old gun. And I'll be like, but it looks like a 5-year-old gun, and I'm very uncomfortable putting my hands on it. You can tell me this is hundreds of years old, but this looks like a 5-year-old. And if I touch it, I feel like I'm going to prison.
Yeah, no sir,
thank you.
It's a 500-year-old dragon gun.
No, so because whatever I buy, I'm gonna stream on my locals channel. I've got some shooting to do. You can't shoot live on YouTube.
Right, of course.
That's against terms of service because you might kill yourself or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever.
But I do want to do some shooting, and I'm trying to find the right gun to buy to do it.
Browning Auto 5s are big crowd pleasers because everybody loves them. I mean, you could also go like the ape shit route and just get a Saiga, which is an AK but a shotgun.
Can you buy it? So you can buy those things? They're
Saigas?
Fine? Yeah. I've seen those things. Like it looks like an AK. It's got a.
They're really not nice to use. Like, and they're not fun to shoot. I mean, they're fun to like play with. It's not fun to shoot clays with.
I want a nice rifle or a nice shotgun to shoot clays with. That's what I want.
I'd say so. Like the Browning Satori is like the like competition, like double barrel over under one. The Browning Auto 5 is a semi-automatic, but it's more of just like a general use. This is my shotgun type thing.
Sure.
For me, like if I'm just out having fun, I use an Auto 5 because it's just so much fun and so pleasurable to shoot. But if you're like competing, you're gonna want an over under. Well, get an Auto 5.
Shit.
Get an Auto 5. It's like $500.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might get both because it's a tax write-off. So who knows?
Well, the Satori is like. The thing about the Satori is that you'll have like the top barrel mod choke and the bottom barrel full choke. And so like,
I don't even know what that means, but I believe you.
So the tighter the choke, the tighter your pattern, the further out you can shoot it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
And so people will like shoot 2 clays and get the close one. And then they switch to the lower barrel and you got the tighter choke and you can nail the other one as is way further away.
That makes sense. Okay.
So you have 2 barrels and they have 2 different patterns.
But I probably won't have 2 clay throwers for a while. Like I'd probably just have the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
unless I hire some like local illegal.
I mean, there's also way more entertaining guns that are much better value for money, such as the Philippine Gorilla Gun. That was actually marketed and sold in this country. It's 2 pieces of pipe and it's a 12 gauge.
That doesn't sound safe at all. I like it.
That's fine.
Okay, so Catherine H says cousin's daughter passed away. Shit. They have a GoFundMe. Heather Tylen is her name. Thielen is her name. She had many health problems, including cystic fibrosis. Can't post links. Sorry. No, I have links disabled because of the Chinese pornography bots that come in. But very sorry to hear that. If people want to check out Heather Tylen, Thielen, on GoFundMe, if you feel something for that family, like the dog does, clearly.
Yeah, Rose says to do it.
You can help out. Doug Murray says, hey, Rackets, can I get a small prayer from the chat this evening? I'm at a service plaza in Pennsylvania tonight. Get up at 5 a.m. and driving to Illinois, then San Antonio. I'm not feeling too well. Just need the power of prayer. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely, Doug. I'm sure somebody will pray for you. I will, if nothing else. Get at it, brother. You can make it. I don't know, Pennsylvania to Illinois and then San Antonio. What a strange seeming course, but it probably makes sense with the highways. Having to go to Illinois is like going through hell, so you will need prayer. It's the longest fucking. I hate driving through Illinois north to south. I'm about to drive to Florida, and I know I'm gonna go and I'm either going to like go through Chicago to Indiana and then go down, or I'm going to go down before Chicago and go through Illinois. And I'm going to hate every second of being in Illinois, which incidentally will be like 9 fucking hours.
Well, where are you going in Florida?
I'm St. Pete's.
Okay, so I was about to warn you, Florida's long too.
Yeah, I know. My parents are in St. Pete's.
Okay.
So I'm driving down there. Where are you
I'm in Orlando.
Florida?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're not too far.
Yeah. If you want to come to our gun factory, you're allowed. Mom said you're allowed.
Things just got more interesting on my Florida trip. Have you ever been to there's a shitty ramen place called Kaioken Ramen, I think.
Yo!
Have you been there?
Yes. I always like, they don't want to talk to you. Like, I always sit there and force them to talk.
So I covered a lawsuit involving Dragon Ball Z. It was Vic Mignogna's lawsuit. He was the voice of Broly. And I went into Kaioken. I was like, oh, fuck. Are these guys like, are they true weebs? Are they going to recognize me and like spit in my soup? They didn't say a word. You're right. Like, they don't want to talk at all.
Yeah.
I got this. It's called Super Saiyans. That's what it's called. Super Saiyan or whatever.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't been there.
Super
Saiyan?
I don't know. It's one of these places. It's a DBZ themed ramen place in Orlando. That's where I went. Are there more than one?
There's a bogus ass Kaio one that's just like, that's underneath it's underneath a stairwell behind a 7-Eleven.
Okay, I didn't go to that one, but now
that one's good.
That's the one I want to go to.
That one's good, yeah. And they're straight, like, fresh off the boats, and they do not want to talk to you. And I bet force them. Great
ramen.
They do, and so I keep buying Asahis, and I'm like, I'm gonna stop buying them if you don't talk to me. And then they'll like.
No, Super Saiyan, they have these ridiculous oversized bowl. You can get the like Kaioken ×3 and the Kaioken ×10, or Kaioken 5 and 10. It's 5 servings of ramen, and it comes in a bowl like this big,
like a fuck off.
You have a ladle, and there's like 6 eggs in this thing.
So it's like the ladle is a normal ramen bowl.
Yeah, I tried to eat it. I died. I wonder if I have a. Hold on. Now I'm thinking about this, and I've got a picture of it. So I just have to go back. Oh shit, this will probably be a disaster. When the hell did I go to fucking Disney? It was during COVID. So not there. I'll find this thing before too long. This was a giant fucking bowl of ramen. I don't even know. I was like, why even make this? Who can eat this? But I tried.
Some kind of monster.
There's a shitload of spinach in it. It was like if Popeye were Japanese. Where do we go? Where's Disney? Come on. Give me that sweet, sweet Disney action. There it is. Okay, here we go. I knew I could find it. Very, very breaded. This is next to a normal single serving bowl of ramen for comparison purposes that my wife ordered.
Oh, Jesus.
So this is a normal bowl of ramen.
Yeah.
And this is the shit that I got. It was fucking crazy. It has wontons in it. Okay, it didn't have 6. It just had the 1 egg, I guess. But it had wontons in it.
Yeah, it had
extra. And all this bamboo shoot. More scallions than can be even grown in a reasonable plot of land. All these fucking stupid mushrooms, like 9 carrots shredded up.
Oh,
it was stupid. I tried to eat, and under all this is just noodles.
Right.
Like it's just all a whole bowl of noodles. So,
Jesus,
God, don't ever go there.
No, I don't think I could.
But I'm gonna find that Kaioken place. That sounds good. Okay.
It was Kaya Ramen. But yeah, no, I'll tell you where it is.
Sounds great. Shame Bad, thanks for the super chat. Also says, did anyone else notice that Kiara Bridges and the unbreaded Matthew Harris have the same crazy look in their eye? Here's $40 towards your next tomahawk or mohawk. It says 2 space mohawk, you shyster. So I think that's got to be a tomahawk. Blaine 20, are Twitter versus Musk documents available? This is some newfangled VIP super chat. Yeah, I think so. What do you think of that as someone who practices gun law?
What?
Elon Musk wanted to buy Twitter.
Oh, yeah. And they were acting all weird about disclosures and stuff.
Yeah. And now they're suing him to force him to buy Twitter after he alleged that they, that they're supported by too many bots and they're overvalued. And so now they're bringing a lawsuit against him to force him to do the purchase. So now they'll have to disclose everything in discovery. Seems like a really fucking stupid.
Yeah, it seems like I wonder what he signed to like get himself in this position.
Well, I mean, but I think it's a good position for him.
Probably.
Because
yeah.
So my theory is that what his plan was, so he overbids Twitter.
Right.
To force them to agree to the sale.
Right.
Because they have a fiduciary duty to the shareholders.
The shareholders, right.
And then he makes a public allegation that they're way overvalued due to a proliferation of bots on the service.
Right.
And then they refuse to engage that. And my thought is if he forces them to disclose their bot activity logs, then it'll drive down the value of services because advertisers will be like, hey, wait,
it's actually just bots.
Yeah, we're paying for a bunch of bullshit. So then he's overbid to force the purchase in theory.
Right.
And now they're suing him to complete the purchase. But what kind of
the first thing he'll do is demand all of like those records that we're giving.
Right. And which in theory will drive down the value. And then he'll go and say the court should make an equitable decision.
Right.
To enforce his purchase as they request, but to reduce the purchase price reflective of, some industry experts analysis of what the company is valued with bots considered. I think it's a brilliant move.
I think it's very interesting. I'm now thinking if this might be one of the rare, like large scale applications of unclean hands. Right.
Yeah. Wait, so on him or Twitter or yes?
Yes.
Right. Cause if he overbid as a ploy to get to driving down the cost, that's a dick move.
Yeah. He could be denied the equitable remedy. Right.
Right. That's true. But also Twitter would have unclean hands because they accepted the sale
but technically would they be like, I don't know if they'd be pursuing an equitable remedy, right? They'd be pursuing
the original contract.
Right. They'd strict performance.
Yeah.
So
it's wild.
It's clear that it's clear that everyone's little dirty lizard hands are foul.
I want Elon to win only because Twitter's such a pile of garbage, and I really want them to suffer.
Yes, I think that they're bad, and also I feel like if Elon won, it would become a like slightly more tolerable. Because Twitter's like the only social media I use, just because it is the only platform designed specifically for dunking on motherfuckers.
Yes. And also for reaching outside of your own circle.
Right.
Because like
to dunk on a motherfucker.
Facebook, you're dunking on your friends and family, which
right.
Like it's fun for a minute. And then then
it causes problems.
I got to go home for Thanksgiving. 2 questions. Someone says, why are they suing in Delaware? Because Twitter is likely incorporated in Delaware. And that's like a much better place to sue than California. And then the other person says Rick from Pawn Stars should negotiate the purchase. look, I'll give you $250,000 for Twitter. I mean, frankly, that's all I can do.
Best that I can do.
It's gonna sit on my shelf. Yeah. It's gonna sit on my shelf. I don't even know who's gonna come in here. I don't know who wants this kind of thing. I'm gonna have to mark it up. I'll probably be able to sell it for $500,000, $600,000, but 250 is the best I can do. Really.
Yeah.
A. Lamau, Beddick thinks you are failing because of a free local stream, yet doesn't realize you do free YouTube streams nightly and are contemplating which sports car to buy with the Super Chat vanity plate. Mental gymnastics at its finest. Yeah, Beddick Martin also said the average lawyer salary of people responding to me on Twitter. Now, this is a really important part of lawyers responding to me, a giant asshole on Twitter. He said their average salary was $400K a year. No. This Beddick likely isn't an attorney. Also, I'll give you guys a little inside baseball. So I did a free local stream last night, but all my streams are free. They're free on here. They're free on Twitch. But 100 people signed up for locals, which means at a minimum, that was a $500 stream for me. And then likely more because all of those 100 people, it's possible that some of them will stop their subscription next month, but the majority of them will not. So it's more than likely about a $1,500 to $2,000 stream for me, just kind of on balance with how subscriptions work out. Like, so, okay. I mean, locals makes me money. No one is required to spend anything to watch anything on locals, just like no one is required to super chat on YouTube. But it's, social media is wildly profitable once you get to a certain percentage. But Betic is a fucking idiot. And you have to understand. Also, Betic is a fat woman named Catherine Tewson. That's her alternate account. And that's 100% true. And there's no way around it.
Who's Betic?
He's this, he is likely literally the alternate account of a paralegal on YouTube or on Twitter who hates me and has forever, but purports to be a lawyer in Houston, Texas, but with no actual Martin Betic is not Betic Martin, but Martin Betic is the person they took the name from, who is an attorney in Houston, Texas. But trust me, that like 70-year-old white guy is not the person who's running the Twitter account that tweets constantly throughout the day, because that guy has way more shit to do than this person. But
internet people are whack.
They're weird, dude. So this Catherine Tewson lady, yesterday, I responded to a tweet that was in a reply thread from 4 days ago. And then she replied to me, and then I replied to that, and she's like, lol, it took you 4 days for my response to her response. And I was like, well, first of all, it didn't take me 4 days. But second of all, yeah, it's very likely that if you tag me on Twitter, I'm not going to see it ever. And the odds that I will are just a happenstance. I mean, I get notifications just all day long. Like they don't go away. I hate them. They give me trauma. That's right, chat. If you like and retweet all my chats, I literally get trauma from my phone buzzing all day long.
Just turn off your shit. Dumbass. Just turn it off.
I'm retarded.
How are you going to be cyberbullied, idiot? Just fucking turn it off, bitch.
Just close your eyes. Just turn off.
Close your eyes, stupid. Talking about your fucking PTSD and shit. Turn that shit off, bitch.
But it's like, so I get notifications spammed all day. So like this random one tweet. That's why I tell people, like, if you want a chance of talking to me on Twitter, and it's only a chance, it's a dice roll, you have to DM me. Because people are like, oh, I tagged you on Twitter. I'm like, well, I don't fucking see that because I get a million notifications. I don't want them. But
yeah, you should kill them.
Yeah. Kill them all.
Yeah, kill them.
But she's like, lol, you didn't respond for 4 days. It's like, no, that's healthy, I think.
It's like, what is she suggesting, that you like spent 4 days like typing out one line?
Right.
You were like mulling over it for free.
I think my response was, lol, you're fat and dumb.
But that's all you could write with 4 days of lead time? When will you admit your love?
These people live on those platforms, right? Like they're on there all the time, responding to everything that they get. And so it doesn't translate. Anyway, long story short, Steph D says, speaking of, Twitter DMs for my super chat, not too long, but too big for a super chat. Oh, damn it.
Yeah, you're going to get on the titterbird. You got to milk the titterbird.
Oh, here we go. All right, I'll do this one. For sure. For my husband's 50th birthday, this is from Steph D. Please toast him. We arrived home on his birthday Sunday after 2 great nights in Galveston to find we were burgled. Fuck. And someone stole his prized Super 73 custom e-bike, among other things. Ruined his day, and he didn't smile for the rest of what should have been a great day grilling steaks and relaxing. Yesterday, we got the bike back, and the dirtbag was arrested. Yeah.
Damn.
My guy is a hardworking electrician, deserves all the good things that he has, and I love him with all of my heart. Cheers, Nick. Okay, yeah. Let me get some Let me get some liquor. I've been drinking a multitude of things, but Hochstetter straight rye whiskey is what I'm drinking for this, which is great. And 50th birthday. Dude, being burgled on your 50th birthday is some bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's stupid.
To Steph D's husband, cheers to you living on this earth for 50 flipping years. It's tragic having your home, your life invaded by some weirdo who desired to take your stuff rather than to get their own. But the good news is it sounds like justice may come your way. And more importantly, your possession has been returned to you. Now, have a second birthday so that you can make up for the ruined first one. And also because you're 50, man, you've earned another one. As a man who has lived 50 years, who has gone through silent toil and unappreciation for the majority of that time, appreciate yourself a little bit extra today, brother. Have a good birthday. Cheers. Okay, Drew Jumpman Gillett. Nick, quote, we're going to get started on the topic shortly, but first let me do 20 LGBT toasts in a row for fake Minecrafted relatives. I did not do that today. I'm doing them now, you fucker. McRae H says, I'm not mad. You do you, Rackets. Good. I always will. Cult of personality. You planning on talking about updates to the Ohio 10-year-old abortion situation? Seems like it was a legit occurrence, but the predator seems to be an illegal, and it appears that he was dating the mom, who may also be an illegal. I didn't know about the dating the mom part. This story is just a walking fucking tragedy. And a bunch of people were shitting on Megan Fox from PJ Media for her coverage of this story. But to remind everybody who wants to shit on Megan Fox for saying it might be a hoax, the only reason anybody even heard of this story was because Megan Fox came out and said, hey, this thing is weird. She's the instigator of actually looking into it beyond the narrative argument. Well, remember the narrative from the media was 10-year-old has to leave Ohio to go to Indiana to get an abortion. That was the media narrative. The real story is that an illegal immigrant was raping a 10-year-old and no one wanted to talk about it. That's the real fucking story. And that they went to a different state to try and cover it up. Fuck all these people. They should be put on a cross and burned.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, I'm legit on kid touching. Get on a cross.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to touch kids or say mean things about kid touches.
Nero lit the garden with Christians, right? he burned Christians at the stake to light the royal gardens.
Right.
If I were Nero, I would light the gardens with pedophiles.
So the entire Roman Congress.
Yes. Yep. They would have been first to go.
Yeah.
Also, the American Congress. Without a hint of irony.
Yeah.
They would be first. They would be tied to the crosses and burned. I wouldn't nail them to the crosses because I'd fear the blood loss would end them too early.
Oh, no.
I would tie them up there and burn them.
And then all the lawyers.
Yeah. No, I've said that. And I've also said, and I know that includes me.
No, I say it too. I say I will take one for the team, boys.
We have to. We are the baby going out with the bathwater.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm fine. This is for the greater good.
Altlag says, I've been a fat for too fucking long. And now trying not to be. Eating veggies and a lean pork chop that somehow turned out delicious on a George Foreman grill. Dude, pork chops, if you cook them just right, they're so good. Cook them. Never mind. Little shame for motivation, please. I'll update my journey over time. Altlag. You're right. You have been a fat for too fucking long.
Yeah.
You should be dead by now.
Yeah, fuck you, fatty.
The only thing keeping you from death is how lazy you are and the fact that you won't walk down the fucking hallway with the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Instead, get your fat ass off the fucking couch and walk away from the light. That was the alternative you could have chose rather than just sitting there eating chips, you pudgy piece of shit. Yeah. Get your ass up, walk towards a better life, and it starts with pork chops and veggies. Try adding chicken to your diet, though. because you need a little bit more lean in there. Go get it, brother. Get less fat. Make America skinny again. Try working and less eating.
Yeah, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Literally true. That's literally true. Cars in Depth says, check out my friend Jack Baruth's new Substack, Avoidable Contact Forever. Jack's the most truthful and talented automotive writer today. Not just cars, culture, music, etc., discussed intelligently and provocatively. Wait, you said you were a mechanic, right?
Yeah.
That was your what's your car? What's your go-to car?
Wait, what? Like that I own?
That you like, and then that you own.
Well, so like, I've always loved Cadillacs, but my daily, like the thing I drive everywhere, is a 1995 Chevy 1500.
Okay.
The GMT 400. It literally cannot be killed, and I like it because I don't even pay attention to what noises it's making because it cannot die. When I have to be taken seriously, I have the Cadillac CTSV, and I've heard
those are amazing.
It's wonderful. It's a stick. All my cars are stick. And the other car I have, which I have out of disdain for Ralph Nader, is a 1964 Chevy Corvair.
Okay. All right. So I'm approaching my midlife crisis intentionally. And I'm trying to determine what I should do for it. And now
Corvette.
See, I've narrowed it down to two things. A 2023 70th anniversary Corvette C8, Z06, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the last Hellcat they'll ever make.
No.
Not the Hellcat.
Bad?
You don't like them?
Nope.
Okay. See, some people really like the Hellcat.
Those people don't know what they're doing.
So the Corvette C8 Z06 70th anniversary edition, that's what I should buy.
Do they have this? I mean, yeah, if you get an automatic Corvette, though, you're a little bitch. Like, you're a little tiny idiot.
I don't
know, like, some kind of a little like subhuman little kind of like girl boy.
I know idiot. They have the paddle shifters. I don't know if they have a stick shift Corvette.
I don't think they do yet, but I think they're working on it.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, if you want the Corvette, you get that. I'm just saying, if you happen to buy an automatic Corvette, you're like a disgusting little subhuman, little tiny
what if they
creature.
Literally don't have a standard
Well,
Corvette?
then you buy the other one. Not the Dodge. You buy another Corvette that has it.
Should I buy both? Should I get the automatic Corvette and a second Corvette? Is that what should happen?
If you have an automatic Corvette, it's because you're a little tiny little girl boy, little bitch, little, like just a little miniature, little corn pop husking little.
It's hard to fucking find a manual transmission.
Oh yeah, do you have a prosthetic leg?
Yes.
Okay, well then you can drive the automatic. That's fine. That's okay.
I'm making that up.
Oh, okay, then yeah, no. So if you get the automatic, it's actually because you're like some kind of like horrible little fucking monster demon. Well, a little tiny.
But I do have my prosthetic leg is actually my Viagra advertised penis.
Like well, no, that actually you need another pedal.
Well, no, I just put one on the gas, one on the clutch, and then I have one on the brake automatically.
Yeah, that's you like just hip thrust for that. Stops on a dime.
So there's a Corvette today. I drove past a Corvette at a lot today. It was a 2013. And it was like, God, it was not very expensive as far as like cars go. And I was like, fuck.
The C8s are like, they're of course wonderful cars.
I love them.
The question is whether it's really a Corvette, right?
Yeah, I don't think it is, but I think they're fucking cool. So I don't really care that they are. Like, I'm not married to a Corvette as a Corvette.
Right.
You know?
No, you see the C8 as this dope ass thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, cause if I was like, oh man, I love Corvettes, I would buy like a 79 to 81 Stingray with the big fucking wheel wells on them. Like those, to me, like those are so cool.
The C3 is that's classic cool.
But
cool.
That's like the ideal.
To me,
Corvette,
the ideal Corvette's the 59. But
yeah, that really old style with the
right.
big like the parabolic white well, I guess it's a
the
parabola
two-tone
on the side.
Right.
Yeah, those are cool. But
the ideal interior is the first year of the C2, because the radio stack is all vertical and it looks like an Italian fighter jet. Like,
okay,
yeah, it's just so slick.
FOG Smitty, dude, I owe you. I'm gonna call you. Like, legitimately going to chat with you. I fucking owe you a long conversation. Sorry, brother. Okay, next. Bat Goat says, boom shakalaka as Stephen Hawking. Thank you. Tarkina Meyer sounds like he is the American Ian Runkle. That's you.
What's Ian Runkle?
Runkle of the Bailey is a Canadian gun lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
But dude, I mean, you should be flattered because Ian's a nice guy and really cool and all, but at the same time, they did just compare you to a Canadian.
That's disgusting.
Right. Like, I almost feel like you should take a 6-foot-long claymore and go murder them for that. Wind chimes instead of leather. Lol. Ian Runkle makes leather goods. He handcrafts leather goods for whatever reason. Psych Soap says, Matt, Fudd Busters, I admire your sense of interior design. That's nice. I do like the backdrop you have there.
Thank you.
It's pretty good. No, those are just wind chimes.
Yeah. So whatever.
AG Cast, ask Matt about 3D printed guns and how magnets work.
So I'm really deep in the 3D gun community. I've designed several of the receivers and worked on a couple of the entirely printed guns. And there's a subgroup of people that does not understand how things work. And they like put magnets into a gun and said, well, now it's magnet delayed blowback. And we're all like, okay, so like what delayed blowbacks means is this specific thing with mechanical disadvantage. And what you did was put magnets on your gun, and they got very mad at us for pointing this out.
What's the purpose of the magnet? Like, what are
it's bro science. It's bro science. Like, literally and it's not as if the magnets were like at the front, so it was actually like a load against like preventing the acceleration of the bolt rearward. There were just magnets on the top of the like receiver, and their theory was that it would drag the bolt further up. Of course, this ignoring the fact that magnets have no shear strength whatsoever. Like, they do not prevent the bolt from accelerating rearward. And they're like, they swore up and down that it reduced recoil. And it did, because they put like 6 ounces of magnets on the top of the gun, which recoil.
Just reduces recoil by sheer
weight.
Mass.
Yes.
Yeah. Here I am thinking they've got like some weird scheme, like a railgun theory.
Yeah.
Like, we'll run some.
We did spend like a week looking at their stuff, trying to figure out what they meant by magnet delayed. And we were like, no, they must have like figured something cool out here. They must have. And then we're like, no, they're just fucking stupid. Like that.
It's like, yeah, because I could see if you had, but the problem is the system to do this would take so much fucking electricity.
Right. It would need to be an electric magnet. And if it failed,
you're fucked.
It would fail open, right? And the bolt would just become a projectile for your chest.
Right. And I'm like, well, or I was thinking, okay, so like you have the propellant pushing the bullet forward, and then you incorporate into it like a mini rail system.
Oh,
you have an electromagnet like running with the bullet and propelling it forward at a higher velocity. But like, it'd be impractically huge. You'd have to have a fucking Ghostbusters backpack on powering this thing, and it only worked for like 4 rounds. What a waste.
And then it's just like, why didn't you use a bigger round at that point?
Yeah, just add powder. It's easier. Petroleum and petroleum products would be. I'm kind of curious if they will ever switch from like a powder to a solid state petroleum combustible.
Well, so we kind of went from the other. So like cordite was mostly solid. It was rods, and that was the earliest smokeless powders. And then DuPont, really developed the flake and stick powders, which are nitrocellulose based. And we haven't really found anything better, like, and not for want of trying.
Okay, so have you seen the Dread? Do you remember the Dread or the Steel Rain?
Yes. Yes. Steel Rain.
When those were like kind of popular, that
was back when History Channel showed you cool things.
There was a proposal for a gun where the bullets loaded into the barrel. Basically, they didn't need to magazine in, and they had a solid state petroleum propellant that would ignite by basically they're
a bunch of electrical contacts.
Yeah, two leads that ran down the barrel, and so they would stack them into this double barrel thing,
right,
and they would just fire off, one at a time. And it was like, that's kind of interesting, but I wonder what that would do, because all of the propulsion would go back against the other bullets in the stack. So it was weird.
So it's going to follow the path of least resistance, and so that's why you want a solid, so you're not compressing the bullets rearward in the stack,
right?
And you also need that solid to be durable enough to not wind up being compressed. So it was a hard thing. They did manage to do it, and actually that wasn't new. So in the late 1700s, there was a multiplex loaded black powder weapon. And so you had your barrel, and what you do is you'd put a very specific amount of black powder and then a bullet, and then a very specific amount of black powder and a bullet, and a very specific amount of black powder and a bullet. And so you had, it looked like a regular capped rifle, but you had a bunch of hammers along the barrel. And so as you pulled the trigger, it would go boof, 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 boof. And
awesome.
And it worked.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah. So it's the pressure would rather push the bullet down the barrel than try to compress the bullet into the.
Right. Because as long as the mass is solid and durable, it won't go. So it'll push it out. But it's interesting because I know I've seen a thing like comparing the volume versus propellant force of petroleum byproducts is way higher than black powder. Like
black powder is an explosive, and it's so, and that's an interesting thing about Bruin, because they talked about early handgun carrying restrictions, right? And they're like, oh, well, see, they actually did have some of that. Well, yeah, because in the early days when we were using black powder, handguns were worthless. Like, they had an effective range of like 20 feet. And it wasn't just because of the lack of rifling. It was because, and if I ever take you shooting, I'll let you shoot a old 44 caliber, big fuck off revolver. And you're going to be like, yeah. And you're going to cock it and hold it out. And then you're going to pull the trigger and it's going to go poof. And it's not going to move. And you're going to be like, what the fuck? It's because they had like a 44 had like the power of 22 LR does now. So black powder is very weak, but the nitrocellulose powders that they have now are fucking juicy. Like,
awesome.
Yeah.
You know too much about guns. Have you considered that?
No, I don't know anything about guns. I'm a fucking idiot.
Have you considered a lobotomy?
Yes.
Because I think like you need to reduce your knowledge of how things work.
I want to be like Jack Nicholson in that funny movie. And where he got all happy at the end. Yeah, I want that.
Do you like breakfast tacos?
I've had a couple that were good. I don't
what ethnicity would you say a breakfast taco that you've had is?
I got it from an Asian joint.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's a Filipino breakfast taco then. I know how that works.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear about that from the first lady where she accidentally compared Latinos to breakfast taco?
Oh, wait, what?
Okay, so this happened yesterday. She's like, she was doing some speech on Latino pride or whatever. And she's like, as diverse as the bodegas, well, she called them bodegas, but bodegas of New Jersey, the blossoms of Miami, or the breakfast tacos of San Antonio. Dude. So I went out and bought a bunch of tacos, and we were trying to determine what brand of Latino each taco was. It's like if I said that, I'd be banned from everything.
Yeah, you'd just be taken out. It was like, that's it. You're done. Sorry, bitch. That's it.
Oh shit.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I didn't even know we had a first lady. I've never seen this. I've never seen this chick.
Well, she's a very important doctor, so you need to leave her alone. She's busy dealing with her primary patient.
Oh.
The Iceman 101418 says, "Hey Nick, it's been a rough week. At my congregation, I preach at 3 people, 75 plus, all have COVID. At least one is likely to pass. Then today, my grandpa Bob almost died. If I could get prayers and a toast, I'd be very appreciative." Yeah, the Iceman 101418. Sometimes, God puts you in the trenches, but you're in the trenches to minister to the other people who are there, the people who show up, and the people who go over the trench and come back. Cheers to you, brother. Wait for those members to come back down into the trench and know that they've been through some shit and they're going to need you. Keep up the good work. Crimson Ear says, Matt, what the fuck happened to that poor AK? What AK are they talking about? What am I missing? That one. Okay, yeah. So what happened to it?
I'm glad somebody pointed this out. This is actually a point of pride in my collection. So that's actually, and you're going to get even more mad. That's the guy who said that. It's a Bulgarian AK-74 that Century Arms decided would make a great bullpup. And so they put together this monstrosity. Oh, and by the way, the front handguard is right on the gas block and bayonet lug. And so when you wrap your hand around the front of this gun, your finger is right on a piece of steel directly connected to the barrel, which gets pissing hot.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And so this gun, and the only way to have a sight on it is a Picatinny rail that's on the gas cover, which moves. So you can't hit anything with it. The trigger is connected with a piece of thin wire, which bends. So these guns were so bad, Century Arms has actively tried to get them back from people to destroy them.
Yeah.
And, there's a gun YouTuber called Hank Strange, and he showed me his, and it made me intensely jealous. And so I went out looking for one, and I finally found one in Alabama and got it, and now I display it with pride.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. What a shit gun. Why did they think that would be a good idea?
It's bullpup now. Oh, we put the thing in the back.
Oh, I love this super chat. It's below my threshold of reading immediately, but I'm going to read it now just because I love it so much. RN Rules says, "This guest sucks." Just my opinion. I'll come back when he leaves.
Yeah, that's true. Matt. That's true. Thank you, RN Rules. I'm sure you're a very nice person.
Amazing Wireless 2 says, New York already passed new, more restrictive gun laws in response to the Supreme Court ruling. You now have to turn over 3 years worth of your social media accounts while applying for a permit. Yet we talked about that a little earlier. Jesse Bear 2115. This is what you read earlier. New York now requires your complete social media history on a yearly basis, 28 hours of instruction, 4 references, a police interview, yearly background checks, and fingerprints. Whatever anybody thinks, I just want to remind everybody that is possibly in whatever circuit New York is in. I don't know, second circuit. That is actually possibly a reasonable restriction on gun laws in the Second Circuit. In the Ninth Circuit, it's definitely reasonable. 5 weeks ago, if they had tried to do any one of those things on abortion, it would have been considered an offensive statute. That's how crazy, how powerful your quote unquote right to an abortion was prior to it being overturned by Alito just the other day. Was that any one of those things would have been considered an undue burden in violation of Roe versus Wade. But for guns, there are circuits in our country that not only would take any of them as reasonable, but would quite possibly take all of them as reasonable. And that is fucking crazy. To have an
Well, you don't have a constitutionally enumerated right for guns, unlike the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. Damn it. I was about to say, to have a constitutionally enumerated right be subservient to an unenumerated fiction created in 1972.
Hey, that was one of the greatest piece of Supreme Court legislation I have ever seen. They even really laid out a framework with different stages. It was a great piece of law. It was a great piece of legislation.
Wrote law. They wrote law, and it's batshit crazy that people are like, no, this is the way it should be. It's like, even if you believe that there is some moral right to abortion, which I can see people making that argument. I have no problem. I disagree, but I can see the argument. Roe was the lunatic version of a Supreme Court. It's the most activist. It's one of the most activist decisions you will ever find. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a little bonkers.
They wrote law. They didn't just say no or yes to something that existed. They're like, no. The legislature didn't do this right. Let's fix that and let's write the law for them. Oh my God. All they had to do was say, no, there is some constitutionally protected right to abortion.
And then remand.
And then remand and say this law in Texas is unconstitutional. And that's all they had to do.
Right.
That would be a normal SCOTUS decision. Amleth says, hey, Nick, I wanted to get a shout out on a video I've been working on for months. If the chat enjoys Mauler style in-depth reviews, search for Guild Wars 2 Destruction of Stakes.
Destruction of Stakes.
Get that, Griff. Did you ever play Guild Wars 1 or 2? Do you play video games at all?
I play video games.
What ones do you play? What do you play?
Like currently?
Yeah.
Dude, so I am an attorney because of Phoenix Wright. I'll admit that.
You fucking no, you asshole. Get off my stream. Get out.
I'm not even joking.
I hate you so much right now.
Like,
you're going in the sea with the rest of the attorneys first, and I go last.
So that, I mean, my reason, I wanted to be Edgeworth. I wanted to be the prosecutor. I changed a lot, but the career track didn't change. But I've binged the Yakuza series over the past couple of years.
I want to play those. They look really fucking fun.
Yes. It's so good. It's amazing. And it's like true art. It's amazing.
Have you played Acquitted yet?
No.
The Kyle Rittenhouse game? I
haven't even heard of this.
Okay, so a company made an independent game called an indie company. They made a game called Acquitted, and you're like Kyle Rittenhouse at a protest. You get attacked. You have to murk a bunch of people. I think I have a spare key. I'll send it to you from them. They sent me a key. I need to play it on Steam or on stream.
Yeah,
but I've got a key. I'll send you one. I think I've been
so good. But yeah, no, I used to play the shit out of Battlefield. I used to be top 10 with Repair Wrench. That was how I studied for the bar. I ground out.
You ground out your Battlefield stats.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I had nothing else to do. I was like, fuck it. I'm playing.
Zyphus sent a donation. Thank you. TN says, Missouri Attorney General found out the FBI is coming in August to harvest concealed carry permit holder information from sheriffs. Resist it.
Are they going to bring a little basket to harvest that information?
God, fuck.
We're taking this back to the nest. To our hive.
Okay, CN Arsenal says, Matt is a dirty liar. I never brain good. You read that one earlier.
Yeah.
Johan Noxos, my theory on the seven round limit is that no one makes a 7-round magazine, and 10 is too many. So that would force everyone to use 5-round mags, thus artificially limiting everyone to 5 rounds without expressly regulating to 5 rounds. Well, there you go. But I mean, someone would make a 7-round mag. If you limit it to 7 rounds, someone will make. It would
mean that everybody had to use the 1911.
Yeah,
it's a 7-rounder.
Yeah, that is a 7-rounder, isn't it? So is the SIG
Walther PPKS
P238s. SIG P238s are 7 rounds.
There's many 1911s.
I got my wife a P238 lady. It has nice little frilly shit on it.
Ooh.
That thing kicks harder than my Colt 1911 or my Springfield Armory 1911.
Right, because it's so small. Oh,
yeah.
Dude, speaking of ladies' guns, I'm a huge Walther fanboy. Walther came out with a new gun and they called it the PDPF, and the F stands for femoid. And I reflexively bought it, and I'm like, and I hand it to all my buddies. I'm like, feel this gun, and they're like, this is awesome. This grip is perfect. Like everything's perfect. It's like, yeah, Walther made that for women. And it's like, why the fuck did they market it like that?
You had to make fun of it. Like, oh, this grip is perfect. Oh, you must like grabbing penises too, then.
Yeah, that's the dick grip.
Oh, that's fantastic. Slosher says World War I Germans. Shotguns are a war crime. Also World War I Germans. Hans gets the Flammenwerfer. AD, Matt, your problem is that the 9th Circuit and the 2nd Circuit will literally make up any reason to say, yeah, this regulation is allowable. See Judge Van Dyke's opinions in McDougal versus County of Ventura out in the 9th Circuit.
Yep.
Yeah. And
well, I'm in the real circuit. I'm the 11th Circuit. It's the actual one where God's watching. So
the problem with the 2nd and the 9th is the Supreme Court is going to have to fucking nut up. Right. But luckily, we have 5 justices now who might actually greenlight firearms cases. Roberts is a bitch and a cuck, and he's watching the other. He's watching the other conservative justices from the corner, and he's not sure if he likes it or hates it. Depends on the day. So he's a fucking cuckold in the fucking closet, like peeking through the blinds or whatever, while the other 5 might do God's work. But we now have 5 conservative justices, independent of Roberts, who might actually take a case, because the fact that it took from basically 1939 to 2008 to get a ruling on guns is it's a treasonous act of every Supreme Court in between, in my opinion. And
that's
fuck
true.
all of them for that.
Yeah.
Tank Commando says, what badass Pennsylvanian 15-year-old bought a cannon, boogalooed about, and ruined it for the rest of the Pennsylvanian children? It is great when you see a law that like doesn't really jive. It's like, this is oddly specific. It's like, what happened?
Yeah, something happened.
Some 14-year-old rolled up to like the local grocer with a cannon. It's like, you're going to give us 12 bags of rice, motherfucker. Kyle Beckman, question. Is the new California law against gun manufacturers marketing to minors going to be overturned using the PLCAA despite the marketing carve-out given the First Amendment giving companies in Citizens United?
Yo, that's a lot of words, my man.
It's a lot of words. We're kind of liquored, but let me suggest this. Citizens United is not related to commercial speech at all.
Right. Citizens
United is related to the donation of political speech by personal or commercial enterprises, and it solidifies that fictional persons, corporate personhood, has the same free speech ability as a non-corporate person would. For the purpose, Citizens United is one of the greatest rulings of all time, in my opinion. It's also extremely specifically limited to corporate persons who want to enact individual persons' First Amendment political speech rights specifically. And that's it. That's all that Citizens United did. It says, yeah, if you want to make a commercial or a documentary about a politician that's not funded by another politician, you can. Because that's free speech and that's political speech, and that's it. As a company, that's all they said. Individuals could already do that. Now companies could do it after 2010. I do not know at all what the rest of your question was, but based on what you're saying and having no knowledge of the subject, I'm going to say no. Citizens United is not this is not the case you're looking for.
Yeah.
For that, it as broad as the left wants to make it out, you're not seeing Citizens United cited really anywhere other than specific political speech during an election season about particular candidates coming from a company that is a fictional person.
You know what my favorite thing is to say to people? Because when I was working in DC, I had people bitching about Citizens United all the time. Right? They'd be like saying, "Oh, this is blah blah. This is the end of fairness in politics or whatever." I just always be like, "Oh, okay, cool. How much to change your mind?"
How much money?
Yeah.
Change your mind?
How much? And they'd be like, "Well, you can't." It's like, okay, so what's your fucking problem?
Exactly. Yes. Okay. I was curious where you're going with that, but no, that makes perfect sense. Here's what I always do when people talk about Citizens United. They're like, "Oh, money in politics is bad." I said, okay. Give me a second. We're going to walk through some steps. Who passed this law? Well, Congress. Okay. So existing legislators passed the law. What does this law do? Well, it prevents money from being in politics. Okay. What do existing legislators have a shitload of that a competitor who is not an existing legislature doesn't have? Donations from prior years. Because when they don't spend the full amount in their campaign, it goes into a war chest. And you'll hear about this, and the longer someone's been in Congress, the bigger their war chest and the bigger their ability to spend. I'm like, okay, so why did these politicians limit political contributions in the first place? Like, let's go back to the original. Well, they want to get money out of politics. Well, no, they don't. They have a ton of money. So what do they want to do? Well, they want to limit money in politics. Okay, so they want to limit money in politics. Now, why? Can Chuck Grassley get on Fox tomorrow?
Right.
Of course he can. All he has to do is pick up a phone call and say, "Hey,
let me on.
Brett Baer, do you want to hear a comment on whatever?" Chuck Grassley can get on Fox tomorrow. Even if they're going to roast him, it doesn't matter. He can get on tomorrow. The guy running against Chuck Grassley, can he get on Fox tomorrow? No. How does he?
Not unless he does
Fox?
Something funny in public.
Right. He has to either do something crazy or pay money.
Right.
That's it. So Grassley can get effectively unlimited in-kind contributions from Fox. And what they tried to do was limit the ability for someone to generate their own advertising in a comparable way.
Right.
Congress never passes a law to limit their own power or staying power. Ever. Why would they? They always choose to maximize and extend their ability to influence the public. That's why they're in Congress. They believe they're right. All campaign finance restrictions, literally every single one of them, is for the express purpose of preserving their incumbent status. And it's why 90% of incumbents win re-elections. That's why we do not have change in Congress. So if you are against Citizens United, you're literally supporting incumbency over change every single time. Citizens United is the minor balancing point in favor of an independent person who's had only the present year to raise funds against someone who's been raising funds for potentially 2 to 3 decades. And you cannot match it. It's crazy. People just do not. They're like, money in politics bad. I'm like, these motherfuckers on Congress, they have unlimited money in unlimited comparative money. They can be on any news station any day of the week, every day of the week for free. To compete with that, you would have to spend millions of dollars.
But no, you can't.
You can't.
No, that's bad. The company can't pay for the guy.
Exactly.
You got to understand it's bad.
Crimson Ears says, "Oh, this is good. Whatever happened to that thing right above Matt's head? I'm pretty sure is now illegal since Roe was overturned."
Yeah, it's abortive.
Get rid of your abortion. You should go to one of those shout the abortion rallies and be like, "This was my baby."
Look what they did. Yeah, no, up an AK-74 above, and then this nightmare. Look what they did. Look how they massacred my boy.
HK9410. Interesting how they would rather further infringe our rights and deal with the people that took the Lolita Express. Can't imagine why. I can. They're all on it.
Hey, stop saying weird stuff like that.
Congress
they're
and
nice
the Senate
politicians.
are kid touchers.
No,
by
stop.
default.
Stop.
I will not. Look, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. These motherfuckers are kid touchers
Nick, you're
until
not
proven
allowed to
otherwise.
say the truth.
Until
name
proven
them
otherwise.
Like that, Nick.
I don't trust these fuckers
Stop.
at all. All of them can decorate.
What are you gonna do next? Talk about the blood drinking? Come on.
A big, beautiful wall, a terrific wall goes along the wonderful southern border. I've been to the South many times. I love it. Great people, wonderful people. We're gonna find out how to build an aqua wall between Cuba and Florida, but until then, a regular physical wall on the southern border will be great. And we'll just put politicians on it, and they can decorate it wonderful reds and crimsons and burgundies all over the place. Every time they touch a child, we'll put them on the wall and we'll say, here's an example to the rest of the world.
A brick.
Beautiful.
Another brick in the wall.
All in all, they're just another wonderful, beautiful, terrific, frankly, brick in the wall. Sir Marha says, hey, I'm drunk, but my uncle is a real estate agent in Winter Park, Florida. Hey, that's Legoland country.
Yeah.
He put in the mall at Millennium. Check out Brian Grandstaff for all your corporate real estate needs. Dude, I love Legoland. It's probably like Disney is weird. Universal's cool, but Legoland is great to take kids.
I remember when I was a kid, my mom took me to Legoland and I got my first ever pocket calculator.
Yes.
Because they had like the little tiny ones. And I don't remember how old I was, probably like, 21, 24. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be unstoppable.
I can calculate on the fly.
Yeah, no, because like I was literally like, I'm going to cheat in school. So I was like 6 or 7 and I did. And I never learned math thanks to that.
But see, that's why you're a lawyer. Everybody makes fun of me. They're like, Boomer can't do math. I'm like, no, lawyers cannot do math. We don't do it.
I had that conversation with somebody today and like, they were like, oh, well, you don't have to do math. And I'm like, no, like I would have been an engineer if I could. I'm a lawyer. We
would outsource that to someone smarter who can do math.
Yeah, and who understood the sunk cost policy.
Let's see. Art the Clown says, I'm one of the locals recently signed up to you, but I can't minimize the screen, use my phone. It's pretty lame, my man. Breaded app. I am working with locals to get background. They think they have some semblance of background play. They don't realize that they don't have it. So I'm working on convincing them that background play isn't actually real on locals yet. I think we can get that fixed. FOG Smitty says, I heard you like the Thompson model I sent you, Dad. How have you been? I've been good, brother. I've been good. Here it is.
Oh,
my kid built it. It was pretty funny. It's even got 2 rounds in the magazine. You can't see it on camera, but it's got 2 rounds in the magazine. Pretty hilarious. The Law Patrol says, attaboy, get the midlife crisis out of the way early. That way you can have a 3/4 life crisis in 20 years or so. I think entering a midlife crisis intentionally is the important part. Because like if you do it on accident, you like buy something and then you regret it later. You're like, oh fuck, I didn't do that. I didn't think through this thing. I got it as a mistake and now I'm paying for it. No, you got to intentionally midlife crisis and then you can drag it out and buy a bunch of cool shit.
Yeah.
CBDX.com says, sure, nose at checkout is 20% off for THC products. But more importantly, our dog stepped on a bee. Yes, everybody can check out cbdx.com for THC products that are legal in the United States. You got to check out their legal THC products. I can't promote them though. They also said, name a caliber / weapon more blasphemous than an AK that fires 5.56.
Okay, listen. A 5.56 AK has its purposes because what if you find a stockpile of 5.56 ammunition, but you, because of moral reasons, will not use a communist weapon like the AR-15? You're going to need an AK and 5.56. So something much more blasphemous is going to have to be the AR that I have in 545-39.
Did you just suggest that you have an AK, but you wouldn't use a communist AR-15?
Yes.
Okay.
So what countries have made AKs?
Russia, I think.
All of them. Like
all
of every country
have made AKs. Okay.
Pretty much. What countries have made AR-15s in their original configuration?
I have no idea.
The US and Canada, 2 socialist republics. I don't want to use a communist weapon like that.
Okay, but Kalashnikov is a Russian gun.
I wouldn't worry about that. It's made. Listen, like that one's Bulgarian. They're fine. They got Polish pierogi ones. You know, they got.
I need
Slovenian.
A pierogi slinger.
Yeah, pierogi pusher.
Amazing Wireless 2 says, as a New Yorker, the laws that they passed in response to the Supreme Court is more restrictive than what the Supreme Court gave an opinion on. New York also made armed robbery a misdemeanor as long as no one gets hurt. Armed robberies are up 400% in New York City. That's fantastic. Well, the reason they did that, though, is because they want to blame the guns for the robberies. Like a person like Ray hypothetically is walking down a New York block. He is not going to rob you, except the evil gun in his pocket possesses him to rob you. Like, that's true. I think that's why armed robberies are a separate crime.
I was walking down the street the other day and I saw a handgun pass by me.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah. Whenever a handgun walks by, I'm very curious about what's happening.
Always very upset.
We moved here in the 90s. Things were quiet and peaceful. And now I don't know what to do.
We got handguns walking around. They listen to their music.
Okay, so that is the big super chats that I have. I have a bunch of other super chats, but I always like to respect my guest time. You've been on for a very long time. And so I wanted to say you're welcome to stay, but if you need to go, I would, especially because you're in fucking Florida, so that's
it's 4 a.m.
Yeah. So if you need to peace out, you're welcome to. I'm gonna burn through these chats, so it's up to you.
Yeah. No, I want to go to bed, but they're saying you need to ask me the balls or no balls question.
You are an anime aficionado. I can tell.
No, not really.
Come on now.
I really don't watch anime, actually.
You literally bought a dog because of Cowboy Bebop. Don't you fucking lie to me.
Okay.
You know what futa is?
Of course.
So on your futa, that gleaming shaft, do you have balls or do you not have balls on the futa?
Depends on the artist.
No. This is not an artist thing. The futa is real at this point. And you have it standing there in front of you. Are there balls or not on that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Oh my goodness. You have passed the test. Don't listen to chat ever. Balls are the only answer to that, because if you don't have the balls, I think it's more gay.
It's just fucked up. Yeah.
It's weird.
They just got cock fixation.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do all that. All balls squad out there. You know, you're gay. Everybody loves to grab a set of balls when they're handling a shaft. You have to have it. So
yeah, thank you so much for having me on, man. I had a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll have to do another show sometime. Real quick,
sure.
Guys, Matt Fudd Busters, his channel is in the description. You can click on Fudd Busters and it will take you right to his page, and you can click that damn subscribe button right now. You've heard him here. You know what he talks about. He talks about guns. He talks about gun law. Go check him out. He's a good dude. Subscribe to his channel. Throw some views on his videos. See if you like what you see. That's all we can ask. Is the hardest thing in the world is get somebody to just take a peek. So take a peek behind the curtain. And if you like the naked chick that you see, go on in.
Yeah, that's me. I'm naked. Thank you. Thank you guys again so much. And again, guys, don't forget, fuck cops. All right.
All right, brother. Have a good night. Oh my goodness. There we go. There is Matt from Fudd Busters. 2 years in the making. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I think it was great. I've not been intentionally ignoring him for 2 years, by the way. I'm just a piece of shit who doesn't respond to emails. So pour out another bag of more love frog. Spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the team. Post on Twitter as we